LoveLore Library. Chapter 5:11. The three of them appeared, and the people in the group were also watching. Those who were in the interstellar magic world were especially envious of the three of them being able to see Tangua. As for Wanderer Silver Ring and Fairy Piao Miao, although they were also cultivators, they were not in this world. They appeared in the group less often, which seemed to be because of the living environment. The three of them wanted Tangua to go to their world, but no one wanted to. They also did not dare to force Tangua, so they could only find a place to sit down and talk about the past. Tangua also planned to do the same. They went down the mountain together and came to the city. They went to a restaurant and booked a private room. They only ordered some drinks and then looked at Tangua with eager eyes. Tangua took out all kinds of food with an indifferent expression. In a short while, the table was full of all kinds of delicacies from various worlds, dazzling them. What made Tangua even more speechless was that the first thing the three of them thought of was not eating. Instead, they used their consciousness to turn the scene in front of them into a picture and put it in the group. They also added a sentence, "Delicacies from the campus belle." Are you envious? Jealous? The table is full. Tangua facepalmed and said to the system, was it a wrong decision to look for them? Host, think about a group of country bumpkins who have never been to the city. Isn't it like this? Tongzi, your words are getting more and more artistic. When the group quarreled, the three of them closed the group in satisfaction and began to enjoy the delicacies. No one said a word. After eating, Ziyun Dao Master served tea. The three of them looked serious and asked Tangua about her next plan. Campus Belle, how long will you stay in this world? Ziyun Dao Master asked. They all knew that Tangua had been wandering around the world, and the time she stayed in those worlds varied. The longest was unknown, and the shortest was 10 years. I don't know. I will leave after I finish what I want to do. Tangua looked at the three of them puzzled and continued, that Feng Feiling is a reborn person. You should be able to understand what a reborn person is, right? As soon as he finished speaking, the expressions of the three changed. Reincarnated was a literal meaning. The world of cultivation had records of reincarnated people. Such people were favored by the heavens. At the same time, the appearance of such people meant that the heavenly secrets of this world would be disturbed because of the reincarnated people. The fate of many people would change as a result. So, the campus belle's purpose. Mo Yuntian asked carefully, to tell you the truth, ever since my disciple Lang Yiling met Feng Feiling, he has been bewitched to the point of being disoriented, and has even started to disobey me, his master. Previously, I felt that the other party was strange, but I didn't expect it to be like this. Reincarnated people were also known as the daughters of fate. Those who were entangled with them and obeyed them would have a good future, while those who disobeyed them would end up very miserable. Whether I appear or not, Ling Yiling will not end well. Tangua held the teacup and looked up. But after I appear, he can at least stay alive. As for how he will survive, it depends on my mood. Mo Yuntian's expression relaxed. As long as the campus belle doesn't kill him, it's fine. Tangua laughed lightly. This Mo Yuntian was a smart person. He actually guessed that Lang Yiling would not end well. But was it really better for Lang Yiling to live than to die? That might not be the case. Even if Lang Yiling was Mo Yuntian's disciple, she would not show mercy. As long as Sect Master does not interfere, I can guarantee that Lang Yiling's life will not be taken by me. I know. Even if the campus belle wants to personally cripple his spirit root, it's fine. Mo Yuntian had already figured it out. Tangua smiled. Don't worry, I won't cripple him. As for whether he will do it himself in the future, I don't know. The three of them felt a chill run down their spines because of this sentence. Chapter 5:12. Before they met Tangua, they only felt that she was mysterious and powerful. But when they saw her, they only had one thought in their minds: offend anyone but her. Otherwise, they would die a horrible death. Although she looked like a small golden core cultivator, they couldn't afford to offend her. What's your plan next? Chi Shao Perfected Cultivator asked. Tangua fell silent. She held the teacup and thought for a while. Then, her eyes fell on Mo Yuntian. I'll go with sect leader Mo. Don't you devil sects like to occupy cultivators' territory? Let's attack the cultivators' territory and occupy it. Purple Cloud Perfected Cultivator. Was this really okay? She even said it in front of him. Chi Shao Perfected Cultivator. If the campus belle wanted to attack the Wuhua sect, he would let his subordinates play a few rounds and surrender. There was nothing wrong with following the campus belle. Mo Yuntian was stunned. What did he just hear? As a righteous cultivator, the campus belle wanted to become a devil's sect cultivator and lead them to attack the righteous cultivators and occupy their territory. Campus belle, are you sure? Mo Yuntian's expression was a little complicated. He must be dreaming. Tangua nodded. I'm sure. Since the school bell had said so, Mo Yuntian was also a straightforward person. He immediately said excitedly, Okay, school bell, come with me. I'll give you my position as the sect leader of the devil sect. Let's discuss how to take down the righteous cultivators' territory. By the way, you two should surrender as soon as possible. Mo Yuntian snorted. Otherwise, it'll be ugly when you fight. I don't want the position of sect leader. Give me the position of saintess. It'll be lower than yours. I can crush Lang Yiling at will. The whole sect has to listen to my words. Even if it's Lang Yiling's order, I'll have the power to turn everyone to my side. Mo Yuntian wasn't surprised that Tangua didn't want the position of sect leader. He was sincere about giving it up. He always felt that he could do great things with the campus bell. How about this? Let's become brother and sister in name. Campus bell, your position in the sect will be slightly lower than mine, if you don't mind me taking advantage of you. Hearing this, Tangua's eyes lit up. Alright, let's become brother and sister. From now on, I'll call you Brother Mo. Brother Mo, when you see Lang Yiling in the future, remember to tell him that I'm his aunt. Mo Yuntian. Fine, she really couldn't stand that evil creature. Campus belle, let's also become brother and sister. I'm not the only one, right? True Monarch Scarlet Firmament said shamelessly, with the identity of old ancestor Scarlet Firmament's younger sister, it will be very convenient for you to do things in the future. Although Ziyun Dao Master didn't say anything, his expression already told them that if he wanted to become sworn brothers, they would all become sworn brothers together. Thus, the four of them became sworn brothers in the private room. Purple Cloud Dao Master and Scarlet Firmament True Monarch looked at Mo Yuntian and were somewhat speechless. They never thought that they would one day become sworn brothers with this devil. When they thought of having a sister like the campus belle, they suddenly felt that it was worth it. Lang Yiling didn't know the situation and was still being lovey-dovey with Feng Feiling, but he already had an aunt. The four of them came out of the restaurant. Just as they were about to go their separate ways, they were blocked by a man in white. Seeing the appearance of the person who came, they all looked at Tangua in astonishment. Elder Bai, Tangua called out distantly, why are you blocking my way if you don't know? Bai Wuqing didn't move aside. Where did you go? After she left, he went down the mountain to look for her. After looking for a long time, he still couldn't find her. What does this have to do with you? Chapter 5:13. Are you alright? Bai Wuqing suddenly realized that Tangua had already recovered to the late stage of the Golden Core stage. His heart was filled with shock and astonishment. Looking at the other three people, his expression became much more alert. He had seen all three of them before. They were the top figures in the cultivation world. Usually, they would not appear in public. Today, they appeared together, and with her. Tangwa smiled faintly. Whether I'm good or bad, haven't you seen it for yourself? Elder Bai, you have to understand one thing. You and I are no longer master and disciple. I'm also no longer a disciple of the Star Moon sect. Where I go, what I do, whether I'm good or bad, it has nothing to do with you. Bai Wuqing only felt a little depressed, especially when she said that she had nothing to do with him. It was as if a knife had stabbed into his heart. He did not know why he came to find her. Even if she said all these, he was not willing to leave. He only wanted to follow her. With that thought in mind, he did so. Big brother Mo, let's go. Mo Yuntian hesitated for a moment, but still nodded. Big brother Zi Yun, big brother Qi Shao, we'll see you later. If you're free, come visit the Devil's Sect. I'll treat you to good wine and dishes. After the few of them parted, Tangguo passed by Bai Wuqing. She did not even look at him as she left with Mo Yuntian. An hour later, Mo Yuntian glanced behind him as he secretly communicated with Tangguo. School beauty, that guy is still following us. His strength is not inferior to mine. We can't shake him off. Let him be. Mo Yuntian's expression was strange for a moment as he secretly observed Tangguo's expression. Her eyes were smiling, her lips were slightly curved, and her delicate and slightly tender face revealed that she was in a good mood. As he flew, he also observed the cold man in white. He was expressionless, and no emotions could be seen. But the other party was following them calmly, and he did not know what his motive was. School beauty, we're about to reach the Devil's Sect. It's not convenient for him to go in, right? Hearing that, Tangguo turned and walked towards Bai Wuqing. Bai Wuqing did not move forward. He just stood there, waiting for her to walk in front of him. He looked at her with clear eyes and saw her smile that was not a smile. He suddenly felt as if a lifetime had passed, as if she was different somewhere. Bai Wuqing, why are you still following me? Are you a dog? Mo Yuntian. Bai Wuqing was a puppy. The Devil's Sect is right in front of us. Xiaogua, come with me. It's not good to be associated with the Devil's Sect. Bai Wuqing's entire being was cold and indifferent. Even his voice was cold and indifferent. He clearly wanted to take her away, but he just felt that it was for her own good. However, his tone was cold and emotionless. Tangguo sneered. Not good. What's wrong with the Devil Sect? Could it be that I have to go back to the Star Moon Sect with you? Bai Wuqing, I'm afraid you've forgotten how I came from the Star Moon Sect. You saw them cripple my spirit root with your own eyes. You heard them strip me of my identity as a disciple of Star Moon Sect, and you never stopped them. Her expression suddenly became indifferent. You want to take me back, but where can I go? Didn't you hate to see me? Why are you still following me today? Didn't you find me annoying and noisy? Didn't you want some peace and quiet? Great, now you have peace and quiet. Don't find trouble for yourself. After saying that, Tangguo turned to leave. However, Bai Wuqing grabbed her arm. She did not struggle. She stared at that pair of slender hands and laughed softly. Bai Wuqing, you've never once tried to hide your dislike for me. It's like you're looking at something dirty. Why, now you're not letting me go. Are you a wretch? Mo Yuntian stood silently at the side, not daring to say a word. He silently shared the news with his friends in the group. Shocking news. The school beauty and Bai Wuqing had an affair. Heavens, he did not dare to imagine. Chapter 5:14. Bai Wuqing, can you let go of me now? Bai Wuqing silently let go of her and did not try to stop her from entering the devil's sex territory. Mo Yuntian heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly told Tanguo to leave. He really did not want to see such a cold person like Bai Wuqing having a conflict with the campus belle in the future. Bai Wuqing looked at the person who did not turn back and did not retract his gaze until the figure disappeared. After a long time, he lowered his head, found a clean rock, and sat on it. After entering the devil's sect, Mo Yuntian ordered people to observe Bai Wuqing outside and found that he was actually guarding the entrance of the devil's sect. He almost bit his tongue off. He hurriedly threw away the beggar's chicken and rushed to Tangua's side. Sister, that guy is still at the entrance of my devil's sect. Actually, what he wanted to ask was, Sister, is there really something going on between the two of you? But he also felt that this was a little too direct. Brother Mo, you don't have to bother about him. The main road leads to different directions and it's not the devil's sect outside. If he wants to stay, then let him stay. As long as he doesn't find trouble with you. Mo Yuntian found that Tanguo was really looking at the map he gave her with a serious face. On the map were the locations of the various righteous sections. Tanguo looked at the map and asked, so the devil's sect is not the only devil cultivator? Cough cough, Mo Yuntian almost choked and hurriedly explained, how can the devil's sect be the only devil cultivator? Speaking of which, my devil's sect is the most reasonable sect in the entire devil cultivator world. We will not kill the innocent. Although we don't like the righteous sects, we will not randomly capture their disciples and refine them for cultivation. Of course Tanguan knew about this, or else she would not have followed Mo Yuntian back. This immortal cultivation world was more perverted than the average immortal cultivation world. The devil cultivators here, other than the devil's sect, were all perverted. No one knew who started it, but the devil cultivator's tonic was the righteous cultivator. They liked the talented disciples of the various sects the most. The better the talent, the better the results after refining. After the original owner's spiritual roots were destroyed, Feng Feiling plotted against her and she fell into the hands of a demonic cultivator and became a tonic for cultivation. Although this devil sect belonged to the devil cultivator faction, there were still some differences between them and the real devil cultivators. They were serious cultivators. They had clashed with the righteous sects before, but they wouldn't do something like refining cultivators. The plot did not mention much about Mo Yuntian. It only knew that he was not a demonic cultivator. For some reason, he established a demonic sect and occupied a place that no one cared about. In fact, it was a place that no one cared about. Tanguo pondered for a while, then asked, Brother Mo, how many disciples do we have in our devil sect? What are their cultivations? What are their cultivation resources? Attacking other sects was not something that could be done just because they wanted to. Without sufficient confidence, she would not dare to act rashly. This world was more dangerous than she had imagined. There are about 3,000 official disciples. There were quite a few of them. Mo Yuntian continued, about 3,000 of them are below the nascent soul realm. Tanguo was speechless. With such little strength, they would be killed if they rushed over. Sister, I can see the disdain in your eyes. The corner of Mo Yuntian's mouth twitched. Although most of our devil sect's disciples are below the nascent soul realm, other than these 3,000 people, the remaining few hundred people are above the spirit-severing realm. There are about 20 of them who are in the tribulation-passing realm. This was also why the devil sect could stand tall here. Mo Yuntian also dared to challenge the righteous cultivators, and at the same time, he was not afraid of the other sections. Chapter 5:15. After analyzing, Tanguo felt that the current situation was not suitable for attacking and occupying territory, or else it would bring danger to the devil sect. Big Brother Mo, with the current situation, I think the most important thing is to develop the sect and supervise the disciples' cultivation. Mo Yuntian's expression turned serious. I think so too. However, the place he occupied was actually a little poor, and the spiritual energy was also relatively thin. Usually, he would let the disciples go out to train if they could, and the spiritual energy outside was denser than here. Hearing this, Tang Guo was shocked once again. I'm a little doubtful that coming with Mo Yuntian was the worst decision. Tang Guo held her forehead and communicated with the system. Tongzi, what happened to the mysterious and lofty devil sect master who kills people without blinking an eye? Why do I feel that Mo Yuntian doesn't seem like the devil sect master, but more like a big brother in the mountains? System host, before Mo Yuntian became a devil cultivator and established the devil sect, he had a very special label on him. He was a good old man, an honest person. Without waiting for Tang Guo to ask, the system automatically answered. There was no introduction in the plot, but these worlds were just so strange. As long as Tang Guo was curious, some plots would automatically be unlocked, and he could check them and tell Tang Guo. This time, Tang Guo really opened her eyes wide, extremely shocked. Good old man honest person Mo Yuntian suddenly realized that his new sworn sister was looking at him with a strange gaze, causing him to feel uncomfortable. He hurriedly asked how they should develop the sect. Resources. In this situation, the first thing we need to do is to snatch more resources. Mo Yuntian was in a difficult position. Resources are not easy to snatch. The righteous cultivators now are all like thieves, swarming over with just a little bit of news. If we fight, we might not be able to win. He used to do such things in the past. If he went alone, he could still snatch a lot back, and it was easy to run away. Bringing more people would not be so convenient. For things like resources, it was best to get first-hand information and seize the opportunity to obtain the greatest benefits. Big brother Mo, don't worry about this. Next, we will plan to get resources. Tang Guo lowered her head and smiled. Wasn't this the time when Feng Feiling was preparing to seize the opportunity of everyone in the cultivation world? Feng Feiling was indeed a straightforward, ruthless, and decisive person. For the sake of his own cultivation, and for the sake of not being obstructed by others, he simply took in all the places she once knew, regardless of whether they were useful or not. Unfortunately, she wasn't going to create her own force. Having Wen Ziqiu of the Star Moon sect was enough for her. Before she ascended, she had plundered almost everything in this world, leaving no way for others to survive. Mo Yuntian did not ask why. He subconsciously believed in Tang Guo. Next, he carefully introduced Tang Guo to the entire devil sect. The disciples of the devil sect all knew that their sect master had a new sister that he valued very much. They had to address the saintess as aunt. Mo Yuntian also told them that in the future, he would be the most powerful person in the devil sect, followed by Aunt Saintess. Even the young sect master would be ranked third. Without waiting for the disciples to react, he said that Aunt Saintess was going to take them to fight for resources and develop the sect. The disciples of the devil sect were all excited. Resources, who didn't like it? The way they looked at Aunt Saintess became better and better. Such a good Aunt Saintess, they would definitely provide for her in the future. To be able to take them to fight for resources, her status would naturally be higher than the young sect master. The young sect master did not do proper business all day, and only knew how to revolve around a woman, which was especially boring. Chapter 5:16. Sister, are you sure there are resources here? This time, Mo Yuntian chose 50 disciples and brought along 2 powerhouses in the crossing calamity stage to avoid any other problems. Before them was an endless mountain range. Tang Guo had told them that there would be unimaginable resources here. But this place had thin spirit qi and looked even poorer than the devil sect. There really were resources here. Let's wait. Tanghua was wearing a spotless white gauze dress and a white bamboo hat that could block divine sense. Mo Yuntian also felt that it was better for her to hide for now. After all, she was involved with the Devil's Sect. If the righteous cultivators saw her, they would definitely suppress her. Tanghua's idea was different from Mo Yuntian's. She stood at the foot of the mountain and pointed to a location. You take some people and dig from here. Hurry up. We need to get everything in 3 days. Mo Yuntian nodded. Mo Yuntian did not waste any more time and brought his disciples to work. What made Tanghua speechless was that she saw Mo Yuntian's message in the group. School bell, bring us to fight for resources. At the same time, he also attached a picture. Thus, the group became lively. Sage Siyun and True Monarch Scarlet Firmament were scolding Mo Yuntian for being shameless. The others also said that they were envious. Mo Yuntian had already started digging, but he could not help but look behind him. There was a cold man who was following them from afar. This guy was actually still following them. Did he not plan to go back? He rubbed his chin and did not care. Since the girl said that she did not care, he was not worried about anything. Tanghua took out a chair and sat outside. Bai Wuqing had unknowingly walked in front of her. They called you Saintess Aunt. Bai Wuqing was surprised. It had only been a day since they last met. What happened in the Devil's Sect? Tanghua did not mock him. Yes, I am the Devil's Sect Saintess Aunt, Mo Yuntian's sworn sister. Bai Wuqing looked at her calm reply and his heart tightened. You joined the Devil's Sect? Yes. You don't have to do this. Xiaogua, I can help you. In the past 2 days, he had to admit that he regretted it. He regretted that because of a moment of selfishness, he thought that if he didn't help her, she wouldn't pester him in the future and he would have peace of mind. But when she really left, his mind was filled with memories of the time he spent with her all these years. It was actually not that annoying to have a chattering little girl by his side. There's no need. Just watch. I'm fine. Mo Yuntian, this big brother, isn't bad either. Naturally, he knew. Why are you so free? Tanghua lifted the veil of her bamboo hat and smiled at him. You're a Star Moon Sect elder, it's not good for you to stay here all day. Don't you have anything to do in Star Moon Sect? The calmer Tanghua spoke to him, the more upset Bai Wuqing felt. He tried to find something in her eyes, but the unconcealable adoration in her clear eyes had actually disappeared. Bai Wuqing was a little dazed. Could it be that when she said she would take back her feelings for him that day, she really took it back? What are you looking at? Tanghua asked. Bai Wuqing clenched his fists and shook his head lightly. Nothing. He was looking for something that had once been there. It seemed like it really had disappeared. She put down the veil of her bamboo hat and covered her face. She didn't say anything. He also didn't say anything. He still didn't leave. He didn't know why, but he felt that he should stand here. At the same time, Feng Feiling, who was in the Star Moon Sect, also set off with the Star Moon Sect's disciples. There's no need to be so anxious, Ling Yiling said. Feng Feiling was very persistent. No, I have a feeling that there's definitely something good in that place. We have to go there as soon as possible. Chapter 5:17. The disciples originally thought that they would not find anything in this barren mountain. Who would have thought that by the time they reached a depth of more than 10 feet, they would be blinded by the sight before them? It's spirit stones. There's a spirit stone mine here. Sect leader, we found spirit stones. What Aunt Saintess said is true. The disciples were excited, and they dug even faster. Mo Yuntian also went over to dig. Pieces of spirit stones were placed in front of him. He swallowed his saliva. There really are spirit stones here. Swallowing his saliva, he said, "Hurry up and dig. Let's see how deep it is." "Big brother Mo, it's not about how deep we have to dig. We have to dig out all the spirit stones here within 3 days. If we're late, there will be a lot of people coming to snatch them," Tang Guo reminded. Mo Yuntian hurriedly nodded. Yes, they had to dig it out as soon as possible. He did not do this originally, but this was also the first time he had monopolized a mountain of spirit stones. He was so excited that he forgot to send a picture to the group to show off. He immediately took out his sword and started digging. Tang Guo sat on a chair, sipping her tea as she watched Mo Yuntian and the disciples busying themselves. It was a bit like a primary school teacher leading a primary school student to clean up. Everyone was very active. "System, what kind of analogy is this?" Bai Wuqing watched the entire process, and was not the least bit moved. Tang Guo was not surprised. Bai Wuqing was such a person. He was really noble, and these things could not enter his eyes. After spending more than 2 days, this rich spirit stone mine was completely dug out by Mo Yuntian and his disciples. After they finished digging, Tang Guo timely said, "The mountain has been dug out, so it's easy for it to collapse. Big brother Mo, we took the mountain's resources, and there are many small animals here. If the mountain collapses, they will have no home to return to." Small animals. The disciples were puzzled. When they were digging for spirit stones, they did not see any small animals at all. This mountain was barren, how could it attract small animals? But Aunt Saintess gave them the resources. If she said there were small animals, there would be. The disciples looked at Tang Guo seriously. Mo Yuntian was speechless. Embarrassing, it was as if he had never seen spirit stones before. However, when he thought of his bulging wallet, he asked enthusiastically, "Girl, what do you think we should do? Aren't there a lot of rocks nearby?" Tang Guo's eyes flashed with mischief. "Find some and fill them in. The mountain won't collapse." The disciples of the Devil's sect received the order and moved quickly, filling the large hole in the mountain. After receiving Tang Guo's praise, their eyes lit up. Only by following Aunt Saintess could they have meat to eat. Mo Yuntian looked at the worshipful gazes of the disciples and really wanted to slap them. "Big brother Mo, let's go to another place." Mo Yuntian didn't suspect anything at all. He didn't find it strange that she knew where to find good things. The fact that Feng Feiling was a reborn person was even known by her. What was there to be surprised about? When they heard that Tang Guo was going to take them to occupy the resources, they were not suspicious at all. They excitedly followed behind Tang Guo. After that, all the disciples of the Devil's sect looked at Tang Guo and called her Aunt Saintess. Their expressions were passionate and grateful, as if she was their second parent. Mo Yuntian had already calmed down. A day later, Tang Guo and the others were already very far away from the mountain. Feng Feiling brought people and arrived. She didn't explain anything and said to the crowd, "Dig down. There's a spirit stone mine below." The disciples of the Star Moon sect muttered in their hearts. What kind of spirit stones could there be in this barren mountain? Due to Feng Feiling's high status, Sect Master Wen Ziqiu told them to listen to her. Everyone obediently dug. "We dug it out. There's something underground." After an hour, a disciple shouted. Chapter 5:18. When Feng Feiling heard that there was something, she quickly rushed over. This was originally a spirit stone mine discovered by a small sect. Because of this spirit stone mine, it caused a fight between sects, resulting in the destruction of that small sect. If she dug it out earlier, it would be a blessing. The corner of Feng Feiling's mouth hooked up. She walked over and asked with a bright smile, "Is it a spirit stone?" The Star Moon sect disciple's expression was strange. He took out a smooth goose egg stone. "Senior Feng, it's not a spirit stone, but a goose egg stone." Although they were both stones, there was a huge difference between the two. Goose egg stone. Feng Feiling was stunned for a moment. How is that possible? She subconsciously said. She clearly remembered that there should be spirit stones here. Is it because you didn't dig the place? She only knew that there were spirit stones here. As for how deep and where it was, she didn't know. She was a bit irritable. It was fine if there was nothing, but if they dug out all goose egg stones, that would be too shameful. She had told everyone that there would definitely be spirit stones here. The Star Moon sect disciple didn't say it, but he was actually a bit dissatisfied. However, Feng Feiling had always been arrogant. With the protection of the Devil sect's young sect master and their sect master, as well as her strength being at the nascent soul stage, not many people dared to provoke her. She was really arrogant and high profile. Feng Feiling didn't believe it and let everyone continue digging. In the end, they dug out a large pile of stones. There were all kinds of strange shapes and sizes. Not to mention, it looked pretty good when laid out. Feng Feiling's expression wasn't so good. She stood gloomily at the side and stared at the pile of stones, fiercely clenching her fists. Ling, there shouldn't be any spirit stones here. Ling Yiling patted her shoulder to comfort her. "If you really lack spirit stones, you can ask me." Feng Feiling was uncomfortable. She didn't know who was the first to dig out the spirit stones and fill the hole with stones. She didn't suspect that there were other people who were reborn. If there really were, they would definitely be like her and wouldn't disappear into the crowd. It was most likely because her rebirth was too different from her previous actions, which caused some changes in fate. She had heard of reborn people before. A reborn person could change the fate of countless people and the direction of things. Enough. Stop digging, let's go to another place. She knew many places with good resources. She wanted to take them all. As for those geniuses who appeared later in the world of cultivation, it was better not to appear. Anyway, they all had some grudges with her. If they used these resources, they would still be killed by her. That would be a waste of resources. It would be better to have all the resources in her hands from the beginning. "Sister, they're all going to be transplanted." Mo Yuntian looked at the large patch of spirit herbs in front of him. "Can they survive? If they can't, why don't we just leave them here and send people to guard them?" Many of these spiritual herbs had not matured yet. If there was a problem with the transplanting, it would be a real pity. Ask the disciples to dig it out. When we return to the sect, I will cultivate it. Mo Yuntian thought of Tanggua's ability and no longer hesitated. He ordered his disciples to dig up all the spiritual herbs, including their roots, without leaving a single stalk behind. What a joke. Why should he leave it behind? They were the ones who discovered it. While they were digging for the spiritual herbs, Tanggua was at the side flipping some withered grass seeds and shaking them into a box. Mo Yuntian did not understand why, but Bai Wuqing could not help but remind him, "We need to scatter it here to hasten the growth." Mo Yuntian, what the fuck, you can still do this. Chapter 5:19. If such a large patch of spirit herbs is taken away, this place will be completely bare. It won't look good. Tanggua didn't think there was anything wrong with her words. "I'll just scatter some wild grass seeds here. It'll look green and won't stand out too much." Mo Yuntian was speechless. Bai Wuqing was speechless. He had never noticed that Xiaogua had so many sides to her. Her eyes were clearly filled with evil intentions, but she had to make the reason sound so elegant and refined. He suddenly felt that talking too much and having evil intentions wasn't a big deal. In fact, it was even more attractive. In the past, he didn't seem to understand her. He didn't expect her to be such a lively person. Once the spirit herbs were all dug up, Tangua instructed all the disciples to scatter the wild grass seeds into the ground. Now I'll teach you how to cultivate the seeds. Mo Yintian's eyes lit up. So that's how it was. He knew that the school beauty wouldn't do anything useless. Their devil sect's location was a bit poor. If they could cultivate some spirit herbs, it wouldn't be impossible to change the environment and transform it into a holy land for cultivation. The devil sect's disciples were all clever. When they heard that Aunt Saintis was going to teach them how to cultivate spirit herbs, their ears perked up. Next, they began to experiment with the wild grass. After 2 days, the place where the spirit herbs had been harvested was filled with uneven weeds. Some were short, some were lush, but they all had one thing in common. They were all green and looked especially beautiful from afar. Tangua praised, "Not bad. Let's return to the devil's sect first and replant the spirit herbs before coming back out." The disciples were all eager to try. They felt that following Aunt Saintis was more honorable than following the sect master. Mo Yuntian was already used to it. He was also excited. He didn't care what Tangua's intentions were. He waved his hand and led the disciples back to the devil sect. Naturally, Bai Wuqing also followed. When they reached the devil sect's location, he didn't follow them. He chose a clean rock and sat there. Mo Yuntian's eyelids twitched. This fellow wouldn't always be like this, right? He saw that Tangua didn't mind. Thinking of Bai Wuqing's arrogance, he asked, "Elder Bai, do you want to sit inside?" "Sure." Bai Wuqing asked Mo Yuntian, but his eyes were fixed on Tangua's back. Mo Yuntian hesitated. When I said this, the girl didn't object. She shouldn't mind. Bai Wuqing actually wanted to go in as well. The more he understood her, the more he didn't want to leave. He nodded, accepting Mo Yuntian's kind intentions. After that, Mo Yuntian ran to the spiritual plant garden and told her about this matter. Tangua really didn't have much of a reaction. Bai Wuqing was indeed a quiet person. It did not matter where he stayed as long as he did not bother her. When the disciples of the sect heard about the experiences of those who had gone out, they were filled with regret. If they had known earlier, they would have enthusiastically signed up and gone out with Aunt Saintis to broaden their horizons. When Tangua taught them how to transplant spirit plants and cultivate spirit plants, all the interested disciples of the devil's sect came to learn. Bai Wuqing wanted to get to know her better, so he followed the crowd and watched. Among the excited disciples, his spotless white robe was very conspicuous. When they saw Bai Wuqing staring at Tangua with a burning gaze, they only treated him as an admirer of their holy maiden aunt and didn't pay much attention to him. This time, they discussed together for 10 days. At the end of the discussion, all the spirit plants they brought back were successfully transplanted, except for the damaged ones. More than half of them were transplanted by themselves. They felt a great sense of accomplishment. At this time, Tangua's position in their hearts rose another level. Chapter 520. How can this be? Feng Feiling looked at the lush weeds, and her eyes almost popped out. She didn't remember wrongly. Wasn't this originally a field of spiritual herbs? There were some aged ones, but there weren't many. Most of them weren't mature enough, but they were relatively rare spiritual herbs. What's going on with this field of lush weeds? She clenched her fists tightly, and there was a feeling of depression in her heart. During this time, she found that the convenience of being reborn had really disappeared without a trace. All the places she thought had good things were either replaced by stones, or there was no such place at all, or the things were taken away by someone else. But the fact that these weeds replaced the spiritual herbs still made her extremely angry. God didn't like her so much. He let her be reborn, but he didn't give her the chance to know the secrets of heaven, and he even made these things disappear. Senior Sister Fong, it's been almost a month, but we haven't found anything. Is the information you got wrong? Is someone deceiving you? In fact, the disciples were very dissatisfied, but they couldn't defend Fong Failing. No matter how much Fong Failing didn't want to admit it, she had to admit that it might be God who prevented her from seizing these opportunities. So many things changed. Although she was unwilling in her heart, she couldn't continue to lead people to search. It seemed that she had to wait for time to find those resources in the future. Luck and fate were mysterious and wonderful. Because she was reborn, she valued these more. The more she thought about it, the worse her expression became. This feeling of being targeted by God was really not good. Fong Failing didn't accept her fate. She even had a feeling that one day, she would poke a hole in this sky. Seeing Fong Failing give up, Ling Yiling also breathed a sigh of relief. Ling, what do you plan to do next? I haven't returned to the sect for a long time, so I plan to go back. Then you go back. Fong Failing didn't care about Ling Yiling. Even if she liked him a little, it was only a little. She only liked herself. Ling Yiling's eyes were a little dim, but he didn't give up. I'll come to see you again after a while. Fong Failing was depressed in her heart. Not only because things weren't going well recently, but also because she found out that Tanggua had disappeared, and the things she wanted to plan were delayed. She was very unhappy. Most importantly, in the past 3 years, her cultivation had not improved at all. She had been so eager to seize opportunities because she wanted to find a way to break through her cultivation through these opportunities. Now that she knew she was being targeted by the heavens, how could she be in a good mood? Ling Yiling also returned to the Devil's Sect with a gloomy mood. He suddenly realized that all the Devil's Sect disciples were walking back and forth with smiles on their faces. It was very strange. Young Sect Master, you're back. Ling Yiling nodded. Where is Master? The sect leader went out. Ling Yiling didn't mind and continued walking towards his residence. I wonder what kind of surprise the Saintess will bring us this time. Aunt Saintess is so powerful. I feel like she knows everything. Right now, the person I admire the most in my sect is Aunt Saintess. Ling Yiling walked back, grabbed a disciple and asked, who is the Saintess aunt? He felt that he had missed out on something after leaving the Devil's Sect. That disciple saw that Ling Yiling was confused and suddenly remembered that young sect master didn't know about this matter. Aunt Saintess is the sect leader's adopted sister. Young sect master, didn't the sect leader inform you about this? No. Ling Yiling's expression didn't look good. Since when did Master have an adopted sister? He didn't have any complaints about Master having an adopted sister, but the problem was that Master didn't inform him about this. Chapter 521. This time, Ling Yiling didn't leave after 2 days like he usually did. He had been waiting at the sect for Mo Yunchen's return. He wanted to see Fong Failing, but he also wanted to find out what had happened in the sect recently. The sect had changed too much. The houses had been renovated, the array had been rearranged, and the spirit plants and herbs had been transplanted. According to the sect disciples, these were all thanks to Aunt Saintess. The Devil's Sect was developing in a good direction, so he didn't have any enmity towards this mysterious Aunt Saintess. At first, he wanted to recognize her to prevent any misunderstandings and conflicts in the future. In short, the trigger point was good. But he really didn't expect that the result would be like this. About a month later, Mo Yuntian and Tang were returned. This time, they returned with a full load. Everyone who came along was full of smiles. Bai Wuqing had been following them silently. Everyone was used to it. And Bai Wuqing couldn't take his eyes off her. Every time he thought of her leaving the Star Moon sect, he felt sad. He didn't know how to explain it, and he couldn't explain it. He always knew that Xiaoguo had feelings for him. Xiaoguo didn't do anything. She just used her identity to create all kinds of opportunities to interact with him. She asked him what he liked and often prepared these for him. But he was a person who liked peace and quiet. There were so many rumors in the sect. He didn't know her well enough and thought that she had ulterior motives. Naturally, he loathed her for harming Feng Feiling and stealing the sect's most valuable treasures. There were so many suspicious points, but he deliberately didn't get to the bottom of it, causing her to be destroyed and expelled from the sect. In the end, it was his own selfishness. He thought that he could get rid of this troublesome disciple. He didn't expect that this would be the decision he regretted the most. After all, he was her master. No matter what, he should find out the truth when she was in trouble. Young sect master, Aunt Saintess is back. A disciple came to report. Out of courtesy, Ling Yiling hurried over to meet her. After Tanguo entered the sect, she took off her bamboo hat. When the disciples saw her, they all called her Aunt Saintess. She nodded and smiled in response. Ling Yiling heard it from afar. Sect master, Aunt Saintess, the young sect master is back. Hearing this, Mo Yuntian silently looked at Tanguo. Seeing the smile on her face, he couldn't see anything. He silently lit a candle for his disciple in his heart. Got it. Ling Yiling stepped into the hall and called out, Master. Then he raised his head. You still know to come back. Ling Yiling recalled the last time he had left the Devil's Sect and had gotten into an argument with Mo Yuntian. He felt a little guilty. If Master had not brought him back, he might have really died then. Master, I was wrong. Mo Yuntian really didn't want to see Ling Yiling right now. He snorted coldly. After raising him for so many years, he still talked back to him because of a woman. He only thought that Feng Feiling was strange and told Ling Yiling to be careful. He didn't expect that his disciple, who had always respected him, would roar at him. At that time, he couldn't help it. Now that the campus bell was here, he didn't care too much about it. He felt that the campus bell coming here should have something to do with Feng Feiling. Since the campus bell was willing to let Ling Yiling go, what was there for him to worry about? Properly developing the Devil's Sect was the right path. Bah, the Devil's Sect was going to attack the Righteous Sect. This is my adopted sister. Come and greet her. From now on, call her Aunt. Chapter 522. Hearing Mo Yuntian's words, Ling Yiling instinctively followed his words and looked for the person in the hall. He immediately saw Tanguo dressed in white, and that exceptionally familiar face. Why are you here? At this moment, Ling Yiling still hadn't thought that this was the sacred lady's aunt, the person he would have to call aunt in the future. Tanguo smiled. Before she could speak, Mo Yuntian glared at him. Bastard, what do you mean by you? This is your aunt, the Devil's Sect sacred lady's aunt, my adopted sister. Don't you dare to call her aunt. Ling Yiling didn't know. How could this be? How could Tanguo become his aunt? He would have to call her aunt when he saw her in the future. This must be a dream. Master, you're joking with me, right? Ling Yiling didn't believe it. His cold face was filled with coldness. Master, do you know who she is? She's the one who harmed Ling Er. Her spiritual roots have been destroyed by me, and she's even been expelled from the Star Moon sect by Master Wen. Mo Yuntian originally wanted to save his foolish disciple, but at this moment, he already wanted to give up. It would be better if he didn't mention this. Now that he did, wouldn't the school bell remember this matter? I know all of this. Mo Yuntian said coldly. Yi Ling, no matter what, she's my adopted sister, the Devil's Sect's sacred lady's aunt. As for you saying that she harmed the woman you like, I don't care. But I believe that she's not such a person. What a joke. If she really wanted to harm someone, she definitely wouldn't have failed. Her spiritual roots were destroyed, and she was expelled from the sect. What the hell was that? Master, I definitely won't call her aunt, Ling Yiling said angrily. She's not worthy. Calling this person aunt was worse than killing him. But she's my adopted sister. According to the way you address her, she's your aunt. Mo Yuntian's head hurt. He glanced at Bai Wuqing, who was quietly sipping his tea, and quickly said, Elder Bai, you be the judge. Should Yi Ling call this girl aunt? Bai Wuqing didn't expect him to be involved. Naturally, he wouldn't miss this opportunity. His expression turned serious. Yes. This time, his gaze towards Leng Yiling was much colder. Only then did Leng Yiling realize that Bai Wuqing was here. Why are you here? Leng Yiling couldn't remain calm. He looked coldly at Bai Wuqing. Elder Bai, it's not good for a righteous cultivator like you to come to the Devil Sect. What are you talking about? Young sect master doesn't often come to my Starry Moon sect, and even has an ambiguous relationship with Starry Moon sect's disciple, Feng Feiling. I'm just imitating young sect master's attitude of not caring about righteous or demonic. Mo Yuntian almost laughed himself to death. Seeing his disciple choking, the anger in his heart eased. When? Yi. He. Yi. You. Ling Yiling didn't expect that the holy maiden aunt he was looking forward to was actually Tanghua. Yi T-S-A-S. Big brother Mo, your disciple doesn't seem to want to call me. Tanghua smiled. It's okay. Whether he calls me that or not, I'm still his aunt. Everyone in the Devil's Sect knows this. Soon, the whole cultivation world will know that I'm his aunt. Ling Yiling's head was filled with the words his aunt. It was so swollen that he had a headache. No. Impossible. She wasn't his aunt. Don't even think about it. Ling Yiling said fiercely. Tanghua smiled. You can't deny it. A smile suddenly appeared on Bai Wuqing's calm face. Young master, you should indeed call her aunt. Get lost. Ling Yiling was furious. Bai Wuqing, you better go back to your Star Moon sect. Don't meddle in my Devil Sect's affairs. Chapter 523. Ling Yiling wanted to rush out and leave, but when he thought about how Tanghua had sneaked into the Devil Sect, he was certain that she was up to no good. He didn't even have time to look for Feng Feiling. Instead, he stayed in the sect all day long, secretly observing what Tanghua wanted to do. After observing for a few days, the atmosphere in the Devil Sect and the disciples' perception of Tanghua made him very worried about the Devil Sect's future. He didn't have the mood to look for Feng Feiling. He must expose Tanghua's true colors and let all the disciples of the Devil Sect understand that Tanghua was a bad person who would harm the Devil Sect. Young sect master, that's because you don't understand Aunt Holy Maiden. She's a very good person. Yes, Aunt Holy Maiden taught us how to cultivate spirit plants and took us out to get resources. Ling Yiling wanted to say that that was not her true colors. But these disciples seem to be possessed. Young sect master, I hope you won't say bad things about Aunt Holy Maiden in the future. Seeing the disciples' angry expressions, Ling Yiling almost fainted from anger. Tanghua was really good. She actually played the disciples of the Devil Sect like a fool. Why did you come to the devil's sect? Ling Yiling didn't forget that he had destroyed Tangua's spirit root. If you really want to take revenge, just look for me. Don't come to the devil's sect to cause trouble. He subconsciously thought that Tangua held a grudge against him for destroying her spirit root. That was the only enmity between them. He didn't know why, but his master, who always knew right from wrong, was also bewitched by this woman. While Mo Yuntian wasn't in the sect, he found an opportunity to question Tangua. If it wasn't for Bai Wuqing, he would definitely kill Tangua first. Last time, he felt that he had been too gentle. If he had known, he would have cut off the tendons in her arms and legs to prevent today's disaster. Bai Wuqing felt Ling Yiling's murderous intent and frowned slightly. He walked from the side and stood in front of Tangua, blocking Ling Yiling's line of sight. Bai Wuqing, aren't you no longer related to her? Bai Wuqing was a little unhappy. If it wasn't for Ling Yiling and Feng failing, they wouldn't have nothing to do with each other now. You can just blame it on me for crippling your spirit root. This time, Tangua paid attention to Ling Yiling. It should be your fault. You're making it sound like you're the scapegoat. Yes, I did it. Can you leave the devil's sect now? Ling Yiling had no feelings for the other members of the devil's sect. The only person he was worried about was Mo Yuntian. To him, Mo Yuntian was like a second parent. He absolutely wouldn't allow Tangua to harm him. Mo. You too. Not only had she recovered her strength, but she had also broken through to the nascent soul stage in a short period of time. He wasn't surprised by this. It wasn't as if there weren't such opportunities in the cultivation world. Tangua herself was a peerless genius. What surprised him the most was Mo Yuntian and Bai Wuqing's attitude towards Tangua. Forget about Bai Wuqing. After all, he was once Tangua's master. Perhaps he regretted his actions. But what did his master, Mo Yuntian, mean? He obeyed Tangua's every word and almost handed the entire devil's sect to her. If Ling Yiling knew that Mo Yuntian once had such intentions, he would probably die from anger. Anyway, you better not have any thoughts about the devil's sect. Ling Yiling also felt that he had been too emotional recently. He kept his expression and said to Tangua coldly, if I can destroy you once, I can do it countless times. After saying this, he felt Bai Wuqing's gaze on him turn colder. I won't allow it this time. Bai Wuqing said coldly. His tone was unquestionable. No one suspected that he was joking. Chapter 524. Ling Yiling's face darkened. Bai Wuqing, she has nothing to do with you anymore. Now that she has joined the devil's sect, you're protecting her. Aren't you a righteous person? So what? Bai Wuqing didn't even look up. I don't need a reason to do anything. Are you serious? Bai Wuqing looked up, a smile appearing on his cold and handsome face. Of course. He didn't explain why he was doing this, but he gave off the feeling that he wanted to do this. He didn't know how to explain, and he didn't know how to. Some things couldn't be explained. He had always done what he wanted. He didn't want to see her being bullied. When he heard that Ling Yiling wanted to cripple her a second time, he didn't want this to happen. Hence, he chose to stop him. This time, he wouldn't choose to avoid it. He wouldn't ignore the feelings in his heart and make himself regret it again. Bai Wuqing, you're doing very well. Ling Yiling saw that Bai Wuqing was so stubborn and hated him. He then saw that Tangua was looking at the map as if nothing had happened. He sneered. Do you think she'll be grateful to you because you did this? No way. Bai Wuqing, look at her. She's just watching the show. You didn't help her that day, so she hates you. Bai Wuqing's gaze landed on Tangua's face. He asked directly. Xiaogua hates me. A little. He's right. I hate all the people who hurt me, including you. Tang Guo replied directly, her eyebrows curved into a smile. He's right. I hate all those who hurt me, including you. Bai Wuqing retracted his gaze and lowered his eyes. His lips curved slightly. It's okay. Xiaogua hates me. Ling Yiling was still waiting for the two of them to fall out, but Bai Wuqing didn't play by the rules. He even said that it was only right. How did he not know that Bai Wuqing was such a shameless person? You guys, Ling Yiling gritted his teeth. He couldn't take it anymore and left in a huff. Bai Wuqing didn't care. He sat opposite Tang Guo and didn't have any intention of moving. He saw that the tea was cold, so he heated it up and poured a cup of hot tea for Tang Guo. He held the cup with his slender fingers and handed it to her. He thought that she wouldn't pick it up, but she did. In the past, they had also interacted like this. Xiaoguo always had endless things to say to him. Every time she brought him tea, it was always his favorite flavor. She knew what he liked very well and would always ask him questions about cultivation. As a master, he indeed had no reason to refuse his disciples' guidance. He saw the love hidden in her eyes, and he also saw the nervousness in her eyes every time she came to find him. At this time, Tang Guo was only looking at the map. She lowered her head and pondered, as if she was planning something. Occasionally, a calculating smile would appear on her face. Originally, he didn't like people who were too calculative, but now, looking at her appearance, he couldn't take his eyes off her. In fact, finding someone pleasing to the eye had nothing to do with whether they were good or not. If they were pleasing to the eye, no matter how good or bad they would still be pleasing to the eye. If they were not pleasing to the eye, no matter how good they would still be disgusted. She casually took a sip of the tea he poured for her, and it gave him a sense of satisfaction. He was stunned. He remembered that in the past, when she poured the purest tea for him, she also seemed to be happy after he drank it. At that time, did she feel the same as he did now? She felt the same joy. Bai Wuqing's eyes flashed. He seemed to have understood something. Xiaogua has become quiet. Tang Guo heard him and looked up. I've never been a noisy person. You. Bai Wuqing was stunned for a moment. He wanted to ask why she was always so lively and cheerful in front of him. Tang Guo seemed to know. She smiled and spat out two words. Pretending. Pretending to be cute, understand. I heard that you like it. Bai Wuqing didn't like cute girls in the past. Who said that he liked cute girls? Chapter 525. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed. Because of Tang Guo's arrival, the entire Devil's sect had undergone a complete transformation. Even Ling Yiling, who wanted to kill Tang Guo the most, had to admit that everything that Tang Guo had done did not seem to be detrimental to the Devil's sect. This made him very suspicious. Could it be that his perception was wrong? Tang Guo was not as bad as he thought. In this year, he would occasionally go and see Feng Feiling. However, because he was worried about the Devil's sect, they did not spend much time together. Personally seeing the Devil's sect change bit by bit, his heart was very complicated. What made him even more confused was that Bai Wuqing had been staying in the Devil's sect and did not leave. It was really strange that a righteous sect elder wanted to stay in his Devil's sect. No matter what, his enmity towards Tang Guo had decreased by a lot. If the other party was obedient, he would not be calculative about what happened in the past. After calming down, Ling Yiling was still worried about Feng Feiling. He said goodbye to Mo Yuntian and left. Mo Yuntian shook his head. Yiling is really obsessed. He secretly glanced at Tang Guo. She looked indifferent and did not seem to care. He then looked at Bai Wuqing, who was still acting like an invisible person. He also did not expect that Bai Wuqing would stay for a year. "Brother Mo, let's go and occupy a territory in a few days," Tang Guo suddenly said. Mo Yuntian was slightly surprised. Which sect? A year had passed, and the devil sect disciples had grown a lot. According to the current situation, the devil sect would definitely get better and better. "Brother Mo, we are not going to attack any sect. We are going to save them and bring them under the protection of our devil sect." Tang Guo revealed a smile. "They will definitely be very willing." Mo Yuntian and Bai Wuqing looked at each other. They felt that this matter was not simple. Mo Yuntian brought people and followed Tang Guo. This time, they were indeed going to a small sect called the Flying Sand Sect. Tang Guo did not reveal why they were going to attack the Flying Sand Sect. When they arrived at the Flying Sand Sect, Mo Yuntian and Bai Wuqing finally understood why Tang Guo said that she was here to save the sect. The smell of blood assaulted their nostrils. The devil sect's disciples' expressions froze. They quickly looked at Tang Guo, as if asking her what to do. Tang Guo was still wearing her bamboo hat. She waved her hand and appeared on the side of the battlefield. At this time, the elder of the Flying Sand Gate was still bitterly holding on. The other side was actually about the same. If they continued to fight, the two sects would definitely suffer losses, and in the end, other forces would take advantage of them. They had already noticed the appearance of Tang Guo's group. Faced with the sudden intruder, both sides tacitly stopped fighting. "Who are you? Why have you come here?" the head of the Flying Sand School asked. He seemed extremely vigilant. Tang Guo took a step forward. She did not reveal her face, nor did she speak. The disciples of the devil sect were very clever. They quickly said, "We are from the devil sect. This is our holy maiden aunt." Holy maiden aunt. The people of the Flying Sand Gate and the other sect were all covered in blood. They were especially confused. When did the devil sect have a holy maiden aunt? Tang Guo did not notice their thoughts. She only said, "If your two sects continue like this, you will immediately face extermination." After saying that, both sides' expressions changed. They looked at each other. In the end, they suppressed the hatred in their eyes and prepared to give up on this battle. "Did you kindly come to remind us? If not, why didn't you wait on the side? Why didn't you wait until both sides were no longer able to fight?" "No. Disciples of the devil sect, listen up. Occupy this place within an hour. Flying Sand Gate." Chapter 526. The devil sect came aggressively, and the people from the two sects were caught before they could react. When they realized that they had no power to resist, they all felt despair. The culprit, the devil sect's holy maiden, was sitting on the seat that originally belonged to the Flying Sand sect leader. Mo Yuntian was sitting on the other side with a smile on his face. He looked like he was in a daze, but in reality, he was showing off in the group. Tang Guo scanned the hall, and her gaze finally landed on a young man. "Bring that young man here." Bai Wuqing could not help but look at her. Could it be that Xiao Guo had taken a fancy to that young man? He looked at the young man a few more times. He was quite good-looking, but he could not be compared to him. The young man was especially nervous. His cheeks were slightly pale, and his body was stained with blood. There was fear in his eyes, but also unyielding. He tightly pursed his lips and was brought in front of Tang Guo. "Are you an E?" The young man was stunned for a moment. Hearing the gentle voice of this woman, she did not seem like a bad person. He could not help but nod. "Wen Yi is indeed this one. In the future, your Flying Sand sect will be part of my devil sect." Wen-yi, your talent is excellent, and this place is not suitable for you to cultivate. Follow me back to the devil's sect to cultivate. Wen-yi. He nervously pinched his sleeves and sized up the woman in front of him who was wearing a bamboo hat. Her voice was pleasant to the ears. Could it be that this saintess aunt was interested in him? Could he not comply? If he did not comply, would he be slapped to death? Would the entire sect be destroyed because of him? He heard that devil cultivators were especially cruel, and would eat people to cultivate. It's decided then. As for the sect that had a conflict with you before, it will be merged with the Flying Sand sect. Seeing that everyone was unwilling, Tanguo smiled faintly. Why did you all have a conflict? Naturally, it's because the Flying Sand sect went too far. They killed our sect's core disciples. If we don't kill them, what face do we have in the cultivation world in the future? We did not kill their core disciples. They were clearly the unreasonable ones, and even caused our sect's disciples to suffer heavy losses. The Flying Sand sect leader said angrily. Seeing that the two of them were about to quarrel, Tanguo waved her hand. Your sect's core disciples were not killed by the Flying Sand sect, but by someone else. Everyone looked at Tanguo at the same time. Mo Yuntian and Bai Wuqing were both very curious. How did she know? Mo Yuntian suddenly recalled that Tanguo knew about reincarnated people. Could it be that she knew everything that would happen in this world in the future? As for who it is, you will know in the future. Now, you are all members of the Devil Sect. All of your territories belong to the Devil Sect. You have to listen to my orders. This Flying Sand sect will change its name to Devil Sect's Flying Sand branch in the future. What could people from two sects do? The Devil Sect was a super big sect, and they were just small sections. They couldn't resist. Tanguo took Wen-yi away, leaving some disciples of the Devil's Sect and a few powerful members of the Devil's Sect to deal with the aftermath. Wen-yi trembled as she followed him back to the Devil's Sect. When she walked into the Devil's Sect, she saw a place filled with birds and flowers. The fragrance of the flowers was intoxicating. He thought that the Devil's Sect was a dark place, but he didn't expect it to look like a fairyland. Big Brother Mo, this kid's talent is not bad. How about letting him be your disciple? Mo Yuntian, Big Brother Mo, it would be a pity to miss such a disciple. Mo Yuntian knew that Wen-yi's talent was very good, but he didn't have any thoughts of taking in another disciple. He hurriedly shook his head. There's just one Leng Yiling, and I'm already worried sick. I don't want any disciples. He even wanted to throw away that stupid disciple of Leng Yiling. Chapter 527. So it's like that. Tanguo thought for a moment, and her eyes lit up. She took off her veiled bamboo hat and smiled at Wen-yi. Then you will be my disciple. Wen-yi really didn't react. But looking at Tanguo's exquisite and beautiful face, he was stunned. Feeling another cold gaze, he quickly lowered his head. Holy Maiden Aunt, are you really going to accept me as your disciple? Of course. Then disciple greets master. His master helped him snatch resources a few years ago and was killed. No matter how good his talent was, in a small sect like the Flying Sand sect, without a master to take care of him, he wouldn't be able to get any resources. Tanguo smiled in satisfaction. She called Wen-yi up, bestowed him with a cultivation technique, and asked someone to assign him a room. Wen-yi left with the cultivation technique with a dumbfounded expression. Holy Maiden Aunt sincerely accepted him as her disciple and even gave him such a good cultivation technique. She also asked someone to arrange a room for him and even allocated cultivation resources to him. All of Tanguo's actions made Bai Wuqing very puzzled. But he was already used to not asking anything. For example, why was it so coincidental that she went to the Flying Sand sect when they were in danger? She even brought Wen-yi back alone. Sister, what's the problem with that Wen? Mo Yuntian asked Tangguo alone. He almost directly said that this guy would be a big shot in the future. Tangguo didn't hide it. If the reincarnator didn't appear, he would indeed be a powerful figure in the cultivation world in the future. But after the reincarnator appeared, he first snatched his opportunity, killed his master, and now instigated a fight between two sections. He will die in this fight. Mo Yuntian's pupils suddenly shrank. This reincarnator wants to disturb the heavens and snatch everyone's opportunity. You can say that. This wasn't the first life. Wen Yi and Feng Feiling had some conflicts and was hated by Feng Feiling. In fact, it could be said that most of the talented people in this world had some disagreements with Feng Feiling. She didn't know how Feng Feiling was like at that time. Even if there was no conflict with her, she couldn't stand those people who relied on their cultivation talent to be high and mighty. She would think of ways to pull these people down from the altar and ruthlessly trample them on the ground. Wen Yi of the Flying Sand Gate was just the beginning. When Tangguo thought of Wen Yi, she couldn't help but laugh. She already thought of doing something in this world to annoy Wen Yi. Host, my energy is increasing very quickly. Are you very happy? Yeah, I'm so happy. Tangguo was grinning from ear to ear. She counted the number of geniuses in this world who had not yet grown up. There were nearly 20 of them. Feng Feiling definitely wouldn't let these people go. Even if he didn't kill them, he would make them disappear into the crowd. If she could take all of these geniuses under her wing before they were destroyed, and all of them became her disciples, she would give them the best cultivation methods, the best resources, and allow their cultivation to soar, and they would become important figures in the cultivation world. Then wouldn't she have students all over the world? She wanted Feng Feiling to understand that even though her reborn self had racked her brains to plunder the opportunities of these geniuses, the heavens would still give them even better opportunities. Not only would these geniuses not be destroyed, they would grow even more terrifying than before. Would Feng Feiling live in fear all day long? That wasn't all. One day, Feng Feiling would find out that these geniuses had all become her disciples. He would probably be angered to death. Host, it wasn't as simple as being angered to death. She would suspect that the heavens were targeting her. After the system heard Tangguo's thoughts, it added. It gave a thumbs up to Tangguo in its heart. Host was still as sarcastic as ever. Chapter 528. The reorganization of the Flying Sand Branch went very smoothly. In the world of cultivation, it was very easy to subdue such a small faction. Violence and benefits were enough to make them obey. As for sincerity, it did not exist in the world of cultivation. As long as the Devil's sect became stronger and stronger, everyone would understand the endless benefits of following the Devil's sect, and they would not betray them. Wen Yi's days were also very comfortable. He was originally very talented, but the cultivation technique that belonged to him had long been snatched away by others, leaving him with nothing but talent. Now that he was under Tangguo's tutelage and became her disciple, he received good cultivation techniques and countless resources, and his cultivation was improving day by day. Every time he came to see Tangguo, he was especially obedient, and his face was full of gratitude. He was more respectful and cordial towards Tangguo. He realized that the more respectful and cordial he was to Tangguo, the less cold the man called by Wuqing looked at him. He was not a fool, this man was his master's admirer. Wen Yi. Disciple is here. Wen Yi cupped his hands and bowed respectfully, his black eyes shining brightly. Cultivate well. In the future, you will have many junior brothers and sisters. As the eldest senior brother, you have to take care of them. Wen Yi was stunned. What did he mean by having many junior brothers and sisters as his master in the future? But seeing that his master was only looking at the map, and constantly drawing on it with a happy expression, he did not ask any more questions. Today was not easy, and he did not want to lose such a good master. He only nodded. Disciple will cultivate well, and take good care of my junior brothers and sisters in the future. He had to work hard, and not let his master worry. Bai Wuqing could not help but interrupt. If you have any problems with your sword skills, you can look for me. Tang Guo glanced at him. Bai Wuqing's expression was indifferent. Since I have nothing to do, Xiao Guo, you do your own thing. I am good at sword skills, and it will be good for Wen Yi. Then Wen Yi, you should listen to him. He is indeed good at sword skills. Tang Guo laughed softly. In the past, I begged him many times, but he did not agree to teach me personally. He always threw a sword manual to me and let me practice on my own. Bai Wuqing, Wen Yi, Xiao Guo, if you want to practice, you can do it any time. Bai Wuqing said hurriedly. Wen Yi could tell that something was amiss from his cold face. There must be a story between Bai Wuqing and his master. I'm not interested in swordsmanship anymore. Tang Guo looked at the map and said with a light smile. Her voice was somewhat cold, and in Bai Wuqing's ears, it was as if she was saying, I'm not interested in you anymore. This caused him to be absent-minded and disappointed for a while. Wen Yi, you can just call him Elder Bai. He is Bai Wuqing from the Star Moon sect. Wen Yi was a little unsteady on her feet. Wasn't Bai Wuqing a legendary figure? That's right, I used to be his disciple, but not anymore. A year ago, my spiritual root was destroyed and I was expelled from the Star Moon sect. My enemies are called Feng Feiling and Leng Yiling. Wen Yi, remember this clearly. Wen Yi could no longer maintain her composure. Bai Wuqing's disciple should be Tang Guo, the peerless genius he had heard of before. She was only 3 years older than him, and she had reached the golden core stage before she was 15. Now, she had become his master. His enemies were Feng Feiling and Leng Yiling. Wasn't Leng Yiling the Devil Sect's young sect leader? Don't think too much. I'm telling you this because I want you to know, so that you won't be cheated in the future. Go and practice well. Wen Yi nodded her head slowly. She still could not accept it. Her master's life was really exciting. They were both not even 20 years old, but why was her master 10,000 times more outstanding than her? Chapter 529. The Flying Sand sect has been occupied by the Devil sect. Feng Feiling only received the news a day later. She frowned and looked at Leng Yiling. Brother Yiling, do you know about this? Her heart was heavy. There was a person in the Flying Sand sect, and she would not let him grow. She first planned to snatch Wen Yi's cultivation method and opportunity, then killed his master. Then, she found an opportunity to sow discord between the two sections. Logically speaking, the Flying Sand sect should have been destroyed, and Wen Yi should not be alive. Why would the Devil sect interfere? Leng Yiling shook his head. I don't know either. Actually, he had a guess in his heart. Could it be that Aunt Saintess did something? Leng Yiling suddenly realized that he, the Devil sect's young sect master, actually knew nothing about his own sect. This made him feel very bad. After thinking for a while, he said, Ling, I'm going back to the Devil sect. I'll come find you later. That's good too. Brother Yiling, remember to check the situation with the Devil sect. If this kind of action angers the major sects, it won't be good for your Devil sect. Leng Yiling's heart warmed as he held Feng Feiling's hand. I knew Ling cared about me. Feng Feiling had a bright smile on her face, but in her heart, she was thinking about who to target next. She really wanted to know if those high and mighty geniuses could still grow after their opportunities were taken away. As for Leng Yiling, in her eyes, he was already in the bag. Just by saving his life once, it was enough to make Leng Yiling be dead set on her. there was no need for her to stick to him. She had already understood this man's cheap nature in her previous life. Back then, didn't Tanggua help Ling Yiling avoid a crisis, which was why Ling Yiling was dead set on her. Therefore, she was not worried about Ling Yiling's departure at all. Now was the time for those geniuses to grow. She had to take away their opportunities first. She was very busy and did not have time to talk about love with this man. Ling Yiling returned to the Devil's Sect with complicated feelings. Seeing that the Devil's Sect had become a little better, he felt extremely complicated. With the Devil's Sect's current development, he did not have the confidence to question Tanggua. He could only find an opportunity to ask a disciple who knew about it. Young sect master is talking about the flying sand branch. This disciple knows. It is said that Saintess Ant took us past the flying sand branch that day and happened to see the two sects fighting fiercely. She couldn't bear to see them continue, so Saintess Ant said to bring them into the Devil's Sect. Aunt Saintess said that we're all on the same side, so what's the point of fighting? Isn't this the best of both worlds? Ling Yiling looked at the way the disciples worshipped him and thought that he shouldn't have come back. Aunt Saintess also took in a disciple. The young master is very hardworking in his cultivation. Ling Yiling indicated that he no longer wanted to hear any news about Tanggua. Since it was a coincidence, he was relieved. After wandering around the Devil's Sect, he found that Tanggua didn't want to do anything harmful to the Devil's Sect. Ling Yiling let out a sigh of relief and turned to leave. One day, Tanggua was drinking tea when Purple Cloud's spiritual master and Chi Shao's spiritual master secretly came to the Devil's Sect to look for her. She suddenly put down her teacup and said to them, "There's something I need to do. We'll take care of it first." "What's the matter?" Mo Yuntian asked in confusion. Purple Cloud's spiritual master and Chi Shao's spiritual master also looked at each other. "Sister, are you in a hurry? Do you want us to go together?" "Big brother Purple Cloud and big brother Chi Shao don't need to go. It's not a big matter. We'll be back soon. This time, it's closer." Bai Wuqing's heart skipped a beat. He felt that he had seen such a scene before. Sure enough, Tanggua's next sentence confirmed his guess. "Big brother Mo, let's go and attack the Raichi sections." Chapter 530. When Mo Yuntian and the others followed Tanggua to their destination, it was a scene of killing in a sect. Mo Yuntian could not help but tremble. The girl's timing was really perfect. This time, the sect was not a small one, but a medium-sized one. There were also all kinds of battles and competitions in sections. The Heavenly Fire sect had ended up killing each other because of the fight between two elders. When they were surrounded and tied up by the people of the Devil sect, they gradually woke up. Seeing the blood all over the ground and the deaths of many disciples, they were shocked. Seeing this, they could not help but look at the white-clothed woman wearing a light veil bamboo hat sitting above. The veil bamboo hat could cover one's divine sense, so they could not see her appearance clearly. However, everyone could feel that this woman was sizing them up with a casual attitude. "You're all awake." The woman's voice carried a hint of a smile. "Since you're all awake, I'll announce one thing. The Heavenly Fire sect will be under the control of the Devil's sect from now on. It will be renamed the Devil's sect's Heavenly Fire branch from today onwards. Don't even think about it." The elders of the Heavenly Fire sect did not even think about it and hurriedly retorted. They looked at Tanggua angrily, as if they would not submit even if they were to die. Tanggua was not angry. She only said, "If you don't agree, things like today will happen often. Didn't you notice that fighting over a jade slip turned into killing each other in the end?" These words made the elders of the Heavenly Fire sect look ugly. Indeed, they already felt that things were not simple. They suddenly raised their heads and stared at Tanggua. Isn't this a scheme of the Devil's Sect? Do you think that if my Devil's Sect wants to take over your territory, we would need to spend so much effort to send a few transcending tribulation stage cultivators to beat you into submission? Just like now, why should we stop you from killing each other? Wouldn't it be better to wait a little longer? Whether you agree or not, the Heavenly Fire Sect is already the territory of the Devil's Sect. Tangwa did not care about these elders' resentful looks and quickly arranged everything. The people of the Heavenly Fire Sect could not resist. They were all very sad and dejected. That's enough. Don't look as if your mother has died. Being able to join my Devil's Sect is the fortune of your previous life. Tangwa searched in the hall and finally found a girl who was about 10 years old. Her face was sallow and she was emaciated. However, her eyes were bright. This time, her target was this little girl, Gu-chin. According to the original development, Gu-chin was not valued in the beginning. Later, she accidentally found an immortal cave in the back mountain of the sect and found a suitable cultivation method for her. Her cultivation speed was fast, and in a few years, she became a famous genius in the cultivation world. However, some time ago, Feng Failing quietly came to the Heavenly Fire Sect and took away the cultivation opportunity that Gu-chin should have obtained. Not only that, but he had also placed something else inside, causing Gu-chin to attract the attention of other people in the sect when she discovered the cave. There was only a jade slip left in the cave. In fact, it was a blank jade slip. However, because Feng Failing had many tricks up his sleeves, he had tampered with the jade slip, causing two elders to fight. His illusion spread throughout the entire sect. The people of the Heavenly Fire Sect lost their minds and began to kill each other. If she did not come, the Heavenly Fire Sect would be discovered in the end. The entire sect would be filled with all kinds of broken limbs, and their deaths would be quite miserable. She pinched the jade slip and released the restriction on it. She threw the jade slip to the two elders who were fighting. This is what you are fighting for. Take a look. Chapter 531. When the two of them took a look, their faces turned pale. They stood there without saying anything. Not only was the jade slip empty, but they also found traces of an illusion on it. Do you understand now? If you want to know who harmed you today, then join my Devil's Sect with peace of mind. There will be opportunities for revenge in the future. Of course, it doesn't matter if you agree or not. My Devil's Sect's elders will beat you until you're convinced. After Tangwa finished speaking, she looked at the thin girl. Gu-chin also seemed to feel the Devil's Sect Saintess aunt looking at her. Tangwa turned to Wen-yi and said, "Wen-yi, go and bring your second junior sister over." Wen-yi was paying attention to Tangwa's movements. Although he couldn't see her face, she was facing a thin girl with a yellow face. He nodded and walked towards Gu-chin. Gu-chin saw Wen-yi in front of her and couldn't help but take a step back in fear. Wen-yi remembered that he used to love Gu-chin more. He stretched out his hand and smiled at her. "Come with me. Master wants to take you as a disciple." "You? Are you master or saintess aunt?" Gu-chin wasn't stupid. The woman wearing the veil bamboo hat had the right to speak the whole time. She must be a very important person. Although she joined the Heavenly Fire Sect, her talent wasn't good. She joined the sect because one of her ancestors saved the Heavenly Fire Sect's elder and promised that if her family had talent for cultivation, they could join the Heavenly Fire Sect. Coincidentally, she was that person with a little talent. However, her talent was very poor. Among the 5 elements, she had the worst quality. "Yes." Wen-yi's voice was very low, as if he was afraid of scaring her. This was his junior sister, so he had to treat her well. "Come with me to see Master. She will take you as a disciple and make you stronger." Hearing that, Gu Qin's eyes lit up. She wanted to become stronger. After coming to the sect, she was often bullied. However, her talent was too poor, so she could only endure. Previously, she had found a cave with great difficulty, but it had led to such a fight. She put her small hand in Wen Yi's palm and followed him to Tanghua. Gu Qin. Gu Qin was stunned. The saintess aunt was really amazing. She actually knew the name of a nobody like her. Unconsciously, a trace of worship appeared in her eyes. Tanghua couldn't help but laugh as she ridiculed the system. These future geniuses are truly pitiful, to be reduced to such a state by Feng failing. But geniuses are geniuses, and their brains are always smarter than ordinary people. If it were other children, seeing me, a person from the devil's sect, they would have long been scared to the point of not daring to come up. Perhaps because I'm a member of the devil's sect, I would rather die than obey. However, some geniuses with great luck were different. They knew how to seize any opportunity. They had more experience than others, and their minds were more mature than others. Do you want to come with me and take me as your master? Gu Qin swallowed her saliva and looked at Tanghua with her bright eyes. She asked, my talent is poor. Very poor. Does Aunt Saintess not mind such a disciple? If Aunt Saintess doesn't mind, Gu Qin will acknowledge you as her master. Without waiting for Tanghua to speak, Gu Qin knelt on the ground with a plop and kowtowed to Tanghua 3 times. Dong, 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 she was especially forceful. She raised her head and revealed a smile, Master. Junior apprentice sister Wen Yi was much more powerful than him. She was so fast, was she afraid that her master would go back on her words? Tanghua was also amused. She quickly helped Gu Qin up and whispered, your talent isn't bad. In fact, it's very good. It's just that you haven't obtained a suitable cultivation technique. Come, follow me back and cultivate with your senior apprentice brother. Once you cultivate a suitable cultivation technique, you will understand how heaven-defying your talent is. Very good, another powerful opponent was nurtured for Feng failing. Chapter 532. Gu Qin was the same as Wen Yi. After coming to the devil's sect, she was shocked by the environment of the devil's sect. It was really too beautiful. The mountains were limpid and the water was clear. The birds were chirping and the flowers were fragrant. Was this really the legendary devil's sect? Before she could react, Tanghua gave her a suitable cultivation method. After she successfully cultivated it, the little girl had never experienced such a cultivation speed. She actually cultivated all day long. When Eve saw that his junior sister was working so hard. As the eldest senior brother, he could not fall behind. The two of them became the most hardworking people in the devil's sect, and they led the cultivation of all the disciples in the devil's sect. No matter what, they couldn't lose to 2 children. Feng failing quickly found out that the Heavenly Fire sect had also been occupied by the Devil's sect and had been renamed the Heavenly Fire branch. Brother Yiling, what's going on with the Devil's sect? If she wasn't the one who caused the Heavenly Fire sect's incident, then the Devil's sect's occupation had nothing to do with her. This had already happened twice. Every time she made a move, the Devil's sect would be 1 step behind and take over. It was impossible for her not to be suspicious. The Devil's sect plans to expand their territory. What Leng Yiling said was right. Mo Yuntian had told him before that he wanted to expand the Devil's sect's territory. It must have been a coincidence that something happened to the Heavenly Fire sect, so he took the opportunity to take action. Seeing how certain Leng Yiling was, Feng failing's suspicions lessened. Now that something had happened to the Heavenly Fire sect, even ordinary sects would not be able to remain indifferent when they saw such an opportunity, let alone the Devil's sect. They would definitely think of ways to occupy it. She frowned slightly. The only thing she was worried about was Gu Qin in the Heavenly Fire sect. She had snatched away Gu Qin's opportunity. She didn't know if this genius could still grow up. She had already destroyed the cultivation method of the 5 elements spiritual roots. Ling Yiling saw that Feng Feiling was deep in thought and was puzzled. Once or twice was fine, but he always felt that Feng Feiling had a lot of secrets. However, he didn't delve into it. He also had his own secrets, and he didn't plan to tell Feng Feiling. The Devil sect was currently developing very well. Once he said that Tang Guo was in the Devil sect, with Feng Feiling's temperament, he would definitely cause the Devil sect to be restless. At that time, he would have let down his master. As long as Tang Guo didn't come out to cause trouble for Ling and didn't harm the Devil sect, he wouldn't care about these things. Ever since he returned to the Devil sect and met Tang Guo, his mind had become clearer and clearer. He had already thought about it. Feng Feiling had many suspicious points, but he didn't mind. Perhaps she had some difficulties. Ling, are you trying to do something? Ling Yiling still asked. Feng Feiling was suddenly startled. She recalled that she had indeed revealed too much of her emotions recently. It was also because she was being targeted by the heavens that she was unable to restrain her temper. Brother Yiling, what are you thinking? What can I do? Feng Feiling didn't want Ling Yiling to be suspicious. At least before she grew to the point where no one could rival her, no one could know her secret. I'm just curious. I thought that the Devil sect had some big movements. If these movements caused the righteous sects to attack, it wouldn't be good for you guys. Looking at Feng Feiling's eyes, it didn't seem like he was lying. Moreover, the sincerity revealed in his eyes made Ling Yiling forget his previous suspicions. He held him in his arms. If Ling wants to do something, you can ask me to help you. Brother Yiling, I've received news that a secret territory is about to open. Let's go together. All right. At the same time, Tang Guo smiled at Mo Yuntian. Bai Wuqing's fingers twitched. His gaze didn't move away from Tang Guo's face. He treated her smile as if it was directed at him. Let's go explore the secret territory. A secret territory is about to open. Chapter 533. The group of people from the Devil sect followed Tang Guo to the secret realm. Everyone's face was brimming with excitement. This was because every time they went out, their Aunt Saintess would bring them to gain a lot. It wasn't an expansion of their territory, but they would obtain various cultivation resources. Now, every time they went out, they had to use their strength to fight for the quota. Those who failed were not qualified to go out with their Aunt Saintess. Mo Yuntian looked at the spirit of the Devil sect disciples and couldn't help but sigh. Sister, it's really my Devil sect's fortune that you're here. He knew that Tang Guo wouldn't stay in this world for long. On the surface, it seemed that she was only helping the Devil sect expand its power, but in reality, she had a plan for everything. For example, Wen Yi and Gu Qin, who were accepted as disciples by her, both of them were extremely talented. Especially Gu Qin, he didn't expect that the 5-element spirit root was actually a kind of genius spirit root. Everyone here thought that the 5-element spirit root was a waste spirit root. Moreover, people with this kind of spirit root were less than 1 in 100,000. One day later, Tang Guo arrived at the location of the secret realm. In front of her was a turbulent river. When the secret realm opened, a golden whirlpool would appear in the river. That was the door to the secret realm. This secret realm also belonged to a lucky person. That person was schemed against by a good friend and jumped into the river with a narrow escape. He was washed here and just happened to fall into the whirlpool. After that, he obtained a heavenly treasure and contracted a divine beast. From then on, his strength increased greatly. After recovering, he went back to take revenge and became a legend. Countless people chased after him. This person's divine beast was a phoenix. Foam Failing once saw this phoenix and wanted to touch it. However, how could a proud divine beast like the phoenix let a stranger touch it? It directly sent her flying with a claw. From then on, Foam Failing bore a grudge against her. Knowing that the phoenix was obtained here, she took advantage of Luo Chen's serious injury to stab him to death and contracted the phoenix. She bore a grudge against the phoenix. When she contracted the phoenix, she tampered with the contract and changed the original peace contract to a master-servant contract. Later on, the phoenix lived in her torture every day. Madam Host, this female lead is a bit perverted. Fortunately, this character isn't in the modern world. Otherwise, she would have the character of a newspaper. Who knows, she might bomb a bus today, kill people at a bus station tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow, plant a bomb in a shopping mall. This is called a twisted mind. There's nothing wrong with taking revenge, but it's wrong to vent your anger on innocent people. The system hurriedly agreed. Although its Lord Host was a little mean, she still had a little bit of morals. No matter how perverted she was, she would never implicate the innocent. Just like that, the group of people stood by the river. Although the Devil's Sect disciples were puzzled, since the saint is said to wait here, then they waited here. They did not suspect anything at all. No matter what floats in the river later, pick it up for me. The Devil's Sect disciple quickly replied, yes. About an hour later, the sharp eyes of the demonic Tao sect disciples noticed something floating down from a place far away. All of them rubbed their fists and palms as they rushed forward like a swarm of bees. Luo Qin was plotted against by his good friend. In a moment of desperation, he jumped into the river to escape and was washed away by the current. With his current condition, he should have fainted a long time ago. It was only because of his unwillingness and desire to live that he was still holding on. Suddenly, he felt countless auras rush towards him aggressively and terrifyingly. This made him feel a sense of despair. Could it be that the heavens didn't give Luo Qin a way out? Was there no chance for him to take revenge? Chapter 534. Luo Qin thought he was dead for sure. Those people's auras were truly terrifying. It was as if they wanted to chop him with their blades. The first person to reach him grabbed him by the collar and quickly jumped out of the river. As he ran, he shouted, "Aunt Saintess, I got him. I got him." Luo Qin said, "Brother, are you sure you didn't get the wrong person? Is he a human?" "Aunt Saintess, I got him." "Ah, it's a human." When the disciple put Luo Qin on the ground, he patted his head in annoyance. How could it be a human? Luo Qin already said you got the wrong person. The other disciples who didn't rush over all laughed. They thought they got something good, but they didn't expect it to be a human, and a man at that. If it was a beauty, they wouldn't have laughed. But if it was a man, they couldn't help but laugh. You didn't get the wrong person. I told you to get a human. Luo Qin opened his heavy eyelids and looked at the white-robed woman standing above him. She wore a white veil bamboo hat, so her face couldn't be seen. But her voice was very pleasant, as if it could ease the pain. "Young master, I see that you have an extraordinary physique and experience. Why don't you join my devil sect?" No one present had thought that Tang Guo would say such a thing to Luo Qin. Mo Yuntian's mouth was already twitching. Bai Wuqing's heart tightened, and he quickly sized up Luo Qin. Seeing that he was in a sorry state and had an ordinary appearance, he retracted his gaze. His appearance was ordinary, and his cultivation was ordinary. There was nothing outstanding about him that attracted Xiaoguo's attention. Xiaoguo definitely had another reason for wanting him to join the devil sect. Luo Qin was stunned. Was this girl talking to him? Feed him a healing pill. The devil's sect disciples hurriedly took out healing pills and fed Luo Qin a few of them. Luo Qin quickly swallowed the pill. If he didn't swallow it, he would choke to death. These people's pills were worthless. Were experts supposed to heal the wounded and save the dying? Luo Qin recovered a bit and struggled to stand up. Only then did he see dozens of people around him. Mo Yuntian coughed. I'm Mo Yuntian, the devil's sect leader. Luo Qin was shocked. Why was the sect leader of the devil's sect here? This is my younger sister, and holy maiden of the devil's sect, the new hope of the devil's sect. Mo Yuntian thought that he had already lost all his face, so he might as well say it out loud. None of the people who could catch the eye of this girl were bad. They were all talents that needed to be roped into the devil's sect. He couldn't just watch from the sidelines. No matter what you encounter, joining my devil's sect is a good thing for you. In the future, if you want to take revenge, then take revenge. As long as you don't do anything that is detrimental to the devil's sect, it's fine. Mo Yuntian believed in his foresight. The young man in front of him was not simple. His injuries were more serious than expected. If it had been an ordinary person, they would have died a long time ago. Luo Qin thought of his own experience. He was framed by his best friend, and the person he liked betrayed him without hesitation. As for the clan, they were even more afraid of offending the other party and didn't dare to do anything. It seemed that other than joining the devil's sect, he really had no other choice. No matter what the devil's sect's reputation was, at least his life was saved by these people in front of him. Okay, I'll join. My name is Luo Qin. I used to be a member of the Luo family, but from now on, I'm a member of the devil's sect. Mo Yuntian was grinning from ear to ear. Good, it was good to join. If the devil's sect continued like this, it would become stronger and stronger. Now that the devil's sect didn't have to worry about resources, the more people they had, the better. At this moment, a golden whirlpool suddenly appeared on the river. Chapter 535. Luo Qin, jump inside. Tangua's voice was mysterious. I've calculated that there's an opportunity for you inside. Luo Qin was stunned. Shouldn't everyone be fighting for this opportunity? The devil's sect disciple couldn't stand it and kicked him into the golden whirlpool. Was he a man? Mo Yuntian's disciples were a little rough. Tangua turned around and entered the forest. Bai Wuqing hurriedly followed behind her. Seeing that she was looking for something, he asked, Xiaogua, what are you looking for? A pheasant. Are you hungry? No. Bai Wuqing really couldn't guess what Tangguo was thinking. Hearing that she was looking for a pheasant, he hurriedly used his divine sense to search the surroundings. In the end, he couldn't find a pheasant. Instead, he saw a pigeon flying past. He leaped into the air and reached out to catch the pigeon. The pigeon seemed to be frightened and flapped its wings in his hand. It was hard to imagine how a cold man would look like catching a pigeon. Will a pigeon do? He even handed the pigeon to Tangguo with a cold expression. Tangguo looked at the pigeon. It'll do. It's a little smaller than a pheasant, but there are similarities. She caught the pigeon and returned to the riverside. After waiting for about 2 hours, half of Luo Chen's body appeared. Just as he was about to come out, he heard Tangguo speak. Luo Chen, wait a moment. Luo Chen was stunned. Tangguo leaped in front of him and handed him a pigeon. Put the pigeon there. Where? Luo Chen quickly reacted. Could it be that Aunt Saintess knew that he had formed a contract with a phoenix? He remembered that she said that there was an opportunity for him here. He had indeed been unimpeded and obtained many things. He replied, okay. He took the pigeon and placed it in the phoenix's nest. When he appeared at the riverside again, he saw Tanghua and said in a low voice, "Aunt Saintess, I let the phoenix pass a breath to the pigeon. It now has the phoenix's aura. I don't know if it's the right thing to do." Tanghua almost clapped her hands and laughed. Amazing, Luo Chen's comprehension was really amazing. Well done. Luo Chen revealed a smile. He seemed to have guessed something. Could it be that someone else would come here? This golden vortex will disappear one day. If it wasn't for the fact that he had taken the healing pill earlier, he would definitely have stayed inside for half a day. That's enough. Let's go. Tanghua didn't want to meet Feng Feiling for the time being. Feng Feiling should be here in a while. At that time, the surprise she prepared would be meaningless. Mo Yuntian and the others didn't understand why every time Tanghua found something, she would quickly take it and leave. However, they didn't ask any questions and simply turned to leave. After Luo Chen returned to the Devil Sect, he was also stunned by everything in front of him. He knew that the people of the Devil Sect knew how to cultivate spirit plants. Without even thinking about it, he took out some of the rare spirit herbs he had obtained inside and gave them to Mo Yuntian. Mo Yuntian patted Luo Chen's shoulder. "You brat, you're aware. Don't worry, there will only be more and more spirit herbs. It's a good thing that sister took a fancy to you. Otherwise, you might have lost your life." These words made Luo Chen's heart tighten. Tanghua's actions meant that there would still be people going to that place. Who knows, at that time, someone might try to kill him. Wouldn't he lose his life then? Sect Master, Aunt Saintess knows how to divine. Don't ask too much about this. You just need to understand that in the Devil Sect, listening to her is the right thing to do. Mo Yuntian couldn't explain it clearly and didn't want to explain too much to Luo Chen. It was enough for everyone in the group to know the sister's secret. Got it. Chapter 536. Feng Feiling and Leng Yiling hurriedly rushed to the river with the golden whirlpool. Seeing that the whirlpool had yet to disappear, they jumped in without thinking. In her previous life, she heard that Luo Chen obtained an opportunity here. That hateful phoenix was also contracted here. As for the specific situation, she didn't know. However, the golden whirlpool had yet to disappear. Did that mean that the thing inside might still be there? It also took some time to rush over. She almost missed this place before. If she had thought of it earlier, she would have waited here from the beginning. As they entered, Feng Feiling's expression didn't look too good. It could be seen that someone had already been here. Leng Yiling didn't expect that there really was a secret realm here. He was getting more and more puzzled by Feng Feiling. She seemed to know a lot, but every time, someone seemed to have taken the initiative. Leng Yiling didn't suspect anything. He only felt that Feng Feiling's luck wasn't very good. Feng Feiling still found the phoenix nest. She couldn't help but feel happy. She felt that there was still a rich phoenix aura here. She quickly broke the formation. There was indeed a phoenix in the nest. It was especially small and white in color. Feng Feiling frowned. Why did it look like a pigeon? However, there was indeed a rich phoenix aura on its body. She stepped forward and grabbed the pigeon. A cold light flashed through her eyes. In her previous life, it was this hateful beast that made her lose face. Just when she wanted to contract the pigeon, she suddenly realized that it was just an ordinary pigeon. Damn it! Feng Feiling couldn't help but throw the pigeon to the side. Why is it a pigeon? The pigeon was so scared that it immediately flew away. When Feng Feiling reacted, it had already flown to God knows where. Who was it that took the initiative and even left a pigeon inside? Feng Feiling hated the person who took the initiative. She came here for nothing again. Now, she believed that the heavens must be targeting her. Otherwise, why would she fail in everything she did this year? Everything didn't go smoothly. She always felt that there was a pair of hands messing around. She couldn't wait any longer. If she didn't snatch away all the opportunities of those geniuses, she wouldn't be satisfied. This time, she didn't know if someone else took the initiative or if Luo Qin himself had already been here. As for that pigeon, no matter who put it there, its purpose was definitely to confuse the people who came later. Ling He, since this place is already occupied, let's go somewhere else. Feng Feiling remembered that Ling Yiling was still by his side, and his expression softened. I wonder who it is that came so quickly. Brother Yiling, I still have a lot of information. Let's go somewhere else. Feng Feiling was no longer calm. She wouldn't allow those geniuses who offended her to grow up. In any case, Ling Yiling was also a demon with decent strength. It would be a waste not to use him. Next, it was time for Ling Yiling to show his worth. She knew Ling Yiling's character too well. He was an extremely protective person. Once he had set his mind on someone, no matter what, that person would be very pleasing to the eye. If anyone bullied her, Ling Yiling would definitely kill them regardless of the consequences. Originally, she wanted to plan slowly, but now it seemed that it was impossible. Oh right, Brother Yiling, my master suddenly asked about Elder Bai. He hasn't been in the sect for a long time. Do you know anything about Elder Bai? Actually, she wanted to know about Bai Wuqing. She also suddenly thought of Bai Wuqing. She also hated Bai Wuqing to the extreme. But now, she couldn't afford to offend Bai Wuqing. When she grew to a certain extent, she would repay him for what she had suffered. She would make Bai Wuqing suffer so much that he would wish he was dead. I don't know. Ling Yiling subconsciously lied. If people knew that Bai Wuqing was in the devil sect, it would be terrible. More importantly, he didn't want Feng Feiling to pay too much attention to Bai Wuqing. Chapter 537. In the following time, Feng Feiling brought Ling Yiling to various places. On the surface, it was to gain experience and look for opportunities. In fact, wherever Feng Feiling went, there would always be conflicts with people. Those who clashed with her would not have a good ending. Ling Yiling couldn't bear to see people bully Feng Feiling, so he didn't hold back. Although he didn't kill them, he almost crippled them. Feng Feiling couldn't help but laugh wildly in her heart when she saw the former geniuses being crippled by Ling Yiling one by one. Geniuses, former geniuses, didn't they know that they liked the gift she gave them? She knew that some geniuses were arrogant and looked down on others. As long as she provoked them a little, they could start a conflict. She had lived 2 lives, so she could make good use of this point. In the end, she crippled those people and left them with their lives. In everyone's eyes, they should be grateful to her. Ling Yiling didn't feel anything about this. Wasn't the cultivation world like this? Don't look for trouble, trouble will come. Ling He was so beautiful, so it was normal for many people to dislike her. Fortunately, he was protecting her. Otherwise, who knew how many people would want to bully Ling He? He said that he wouldn't let Ling He be bullied. Feng Feiling saw that Ling Yiling was treating her better and better, and she was slightly relieved. Ling Yiling was the devil sect's young sect master. In fact, this person was not easy to control. She had to become Ling Yiling's flesh and blood in order to make him work for her willingly. Her cultivation would stagnate for more than a year before there would be any progress. If it wasn't for the fact that many opportunities were snatched away, she might have been able to resume her cultivation long ago. Speaking of which, it wasn't worth it to let her cultivation stagnate for 3 years just to scheme against a Tanggua. Thinking of Tanggua, Feng Feiling's heart sank again. She didn't know where this person went. She secretly searched for a long time, but she couldn't find her. Could it be that she died just like that? That would be too easy for the other party. The disciples of the Devil's sect were quite excited these days. It should be said that ever since Aunt Saintis came to the Devil's sect, they were in a state of excitement every day. The only thing that puzzled them was that Aunt Saintis was a little strange recently. She always liked to go out and pick up some disabled people and take them in as disciples. Wen Yi and Gu Qin were in charge of taking care of their disabled junior brothers and sisters every day. In the past half a year, Master would always bring people out, and when he returned, he would throw 2 people to them. If they didn't have broken arms or legs, their cultivation base would be crippled, their meridians would be crippled, and their spiritual roots would be crippled. At the same time, he added, "These are your 3rd junior brother, 4th junior sister, 5th junior brother, and 6th junior brother." At first, the 2 of them were stunned, but now, they were numb. They didn't understand why their master liked to take in disabled people as his disciples. Maybe it's a fetish. Later on, they realized that these disabled people were gradually recovering. They could even cultivate, and their cultivation speed was not inferior to theirs. Finally, they felt a sense of crisis. Occasionally, when they chatted, they realized that these junior brothers and sisters were originally quite talented in cultivation. Because they had a conflict with someone and were crippled, no matter how talented they were or how good their cultivation was, once they became trash, the power they belonged to would no longer pay attention to them. And these geniuses were somewhat arrogant. They had offended countless people in the past. Seeing that they were in dire straits, everyone naturally wanted to help them, hit them when they were down, tormenting them as much as they could. Sects and families wouldn't care about useless trash. When these geniuses were in dire straits, they saw everything clearly. They wanted to say that it was too late, but they didn't expect that a woman wearing a veil and bamboo hat would appear and take them away. In desperation, this was their only hope. No one disagreed. Chapter 538. Sister, was it all done by Feng Feiling? Only Mo Yuntian understood that these people might be related to Feng Feiling, but he was still shocked that so many geniuses died in Feng Feiling's hands. This Feng Feiling was even more ruthless than demonic cultivators. Tang Guo looked up and smiled faintly. Big brother Mo, Feng Feiling wasn't the only one involved in this, Ling Yiling was also involved. Ling Yiling was the one who schemed against Feng Feiling in the end. Mo Yuntian's heart shook, and his face was a little angry. That bastard, after thinking about it, he still couldn't hold back his anger. I'll go find him. Big brother Mo, he's already obsessed with Feng Feiling. If you find him, it will only deepen the conflict. Even worse, Tang Guo paused and continued, Feng Feiling will hate you, and the one who will be schemed against will be you. Don't think that she won't do it. You were already hated by Feng Feiling because of Ling Yiling, and in the end, you were schemed to death by her. This. Mo Yuntian was stunned for a while, and only recovered after a long time. Is this true? Of course it's true. Mo Yuntian swallowed his saliva, and was a little nervous and worried. Sister, isn't it a little bad for you to casually reveal heaven's secrets like this? Will you suffer heaven's punishment? It wasn't that Mo Yuntian was afraid of trouble, but those who could pry into heaven's secrets would always suffer a backlash if they revealed too much. Many people couldn't even pass the heavenly tribulation and died under the lightning tribulation. Otherwise, a disaster would suddenly appear and they would die. In short, those who revealed heaven's secrets didn't have a good ending. Don't worry, even if this world is destroyed, I won't die. Tang Guo laughed softly. It seems like I'm not bound by heaven's secrets. In the past, when she didn't understand, she was still more careful. But ever since she let go of herself, she realized that the heavens seemed to be blind and didn't care about her at all, treating her as an invisible person. So many times she was suspicious of her origin, and why she kept traveling through these small worlds. If someone wanted to harm her, she really wasn't bound by any restrictions, and she could do whatever she wanted. Even if this world was destroyed, the most serious thing was to continue to the next world, and there was no punishment at all. Thinking about this, she couldn't help but communicate with the system. Tongzi, you've leveled up so much, did you remember anything? I'm sorry, Madam Host, I still remember so much, and there's nothing left. The system was rather regretful. Dear Host, perhaps there will be more opportunities to learn these secrets in the future. Didn't we encounter a fake system before? Moreover, I came out of the Space Administration. Perhaps there is another genuine system. If we encounter one day, we can capture the genuine system and ask it. Good idea. Tanghua was still interested in the Space Control Department, but she could not find any trace of it. If he really encountered a genuine system, he could indeed capture it and ask it. Dear Host, how are you going to deal with Bai Wuqing? From the looks of it, he's going to rely on you. He had never thought that such a cold and indifferent person like Bai Wuqing would stay by his host's side without saying a word. This was a bit of a violation of his character setting. Bai Wuqing regretted his actions that day. So what? Tanghua smiled and whispered, he gave it up himself. Okay. The host was indeed cold and heartless. She held grudges and always had her own set of principles. Once we've settled the matters here, we'll leave this world, Tanghua said. As for Bai Wuqing, let him regret it. Sigh, the system sighed. Chapter 539. Tanghua looked at the group of little radishes in front of her. It was hard to imagine that these people would become strong enough to deter all forces in 10 years or so. Except for Wen Yi and Gu Qin, the others were picked up by her from the corners of various forces when she went out. When she picked them up, basically everyone was in a very sorry state. Their eyes were dull, and their original high spirits had long been gone. But these geniuses in front of her were full of spirit, and there was less arrogance in their eyes, and more stability. Every little face looked at her with a very serious expression. It was only after they came to the Devil's Sect that they knew Tanghua's identity. Tanghua was once a genius disciple of the Star Moon sect, but her spiritual root was also destroyed and she was expelled from the sect. At first, they were a little uncomfortable, but because of the similar experience, they were infinitely close to Tanghua. Although she was only 18 years old, not much older than them, they were still very willing to call her master. They also respected and admired her from the bottom of their hearts. She saved herself, and they were saved by others. Speaking of which, their master was more powerful than them. You all seem to be in a good mood. Tanghua smiled. That's very good. Next, I will give you tasks. I hope you can complete them perfectly. Gu Qin was a very lively little girl, and her eyes were shining. Master, can we go out now? Since they came to the Devil's Sect, they were not allowed to go out. Yes, you can go out. Tanghua nodded and waved her hand. A pile of white clothes and white veils appeared on the ground. But to go out, you have to wear the same clothes and wear the veils. No one is allowed to see your appearance. You can do anything, but you are not allowed to reveal your face and identity. No problem, Master. Gu Qin ran excitedly to the pile of veils, and her face was full of joy. This disciple thought it was a big deal. It turns out to be to wear the same beautiful dress as Master and wear the same mysterious veils. This disciple really wishes for it. The others hurriedly nodded. When they first met their master, they were attracted by her mysteriousness. They always felt that her origin was extraordinary and she was powerful in every way. Now that they could wear the same clothes, they were very happy. If it was in the past, they would indeed disdain to dress up in the same way as others. However, it was different now. These were all given to them by their master. Even this veiled bamboo hat was not something ordinary people could obtain. It could conceal one's divine sense. Even people much stronger than them would not be able to see their true faces. As for these white clothes and dresses, they were all magical treasures. They were waterproof, fireproof, and attack-resistant. You all have good talent, so you can't always stay in the sect and live a comfortable life. Otherwise, you'll get used to living a good life and develop a lazy personality. The little radish heads quickly shook their heads. No matter how good the days were, they would not stop cultivating. Surviving in the world of cultivation, if one did not have enough strength, one's fate would be miserable. They had already experienced it. They didn't want to experience that kind of dark and gloomy time again. Their dignity had been trampled on by many people in the past, and they had learned their lesson. Even if you don't enjoy leisure and hate work, and haven't experienced life and death crises, you still won't be able to grow. This time, they somewhat agreed. Life in the sect was indeed more comfortable. So, next, you all need to go out and gain experience. This is good for cultivation. Tanguy took out many jade slips. Here are the plans I made for each of you. I've selected the skills and methods you're good at. When you meet my requirements, you can come back. All the little radish heads' expressions changed greatly. Their master was going to chase them away. No, she was going to let them gain experience. They stared at the pile of jade slips and rubbed their fists. They looked at each other, full of competition. Chapter 540. Xiaogua, don't worry about them leaving. Bai Wuqing originally thought that he understood her a little, but later found that he didn't understand her at all. He thought that she saved those people because she cherished talent. She left them in the devil's sect because she wanted to protect them as they grew. But it seemed that he was wrong. Those children were only 13 or 14 years old, and the youngest was only 7 years old. She was also not worried about letting them leave. They still have to grow. I've already taught them the basic survival skills. If they can be killed like this, then it's because they don't have the ability. If they really die, as their master, I will take revenge for them. That was also their fate. She couldn't always protect them by their side and let them grow. She always gave them a chance. If they took it, then they were smart. If they couldn't, then they couldn't help. She didn't have any special feelings for them. At most, she saved them because of Feng failing. She used them to anger Feng failing, and she saved them and gave them a chance to be reborn. This was their reward. She didn't need anything in return. Her only request was that they didn't betray her. Xiaogua, what are you trying to do? This time, Bai Wuqing asked in a serious tone. He could feel that everything she did was done with a purpose. Who was this purpose aimed at? He also had a premonition that she would disappear once she finished everything. He didn't ignore this inexplicable feeling. Instead, he was terrified by it. He thought that they had a long life, and he had enough time to understand her, get close to her, and move her. Only then did he realize that he might never be able to understand which one was the real her. Every time he thought he understood enough, he would discover that there was another side to her. He got close to her, and succeeded. But she didn't seem to care. She didn't care about him getting close to her, and she didn't care about the feelings he revealed. This made him feel very helpless. He thought that he could use time to move her, but it had already been over a year. He was even more certain that her heart was as hard as iron. He didn't know if he could move her. The indifferent gaze she sometimes revealed was really frighteningly cold. It was like 10,000-year-old ice that couldn't be melted no matter how hard he tried. She always smiled at people. Or rather, it was called hiding a knife behind a smile. She didn't care at all what methods she used, as long as she could achieve her goal. She wasn't afraid of other people's gazes. She could do whatever she wanted. The more he understood this, the more he felt that the Xiaoguo of the past was bound in a small shell, unable to move at all. Now that she had broken out of her shell and gained her freedom, she no longer restrained herself. And the shell of the past was him. "Elder Bai, are you curious about what I'm doing?" Tanguy sneered. She walked in front of him and stared at him with that exquisite and perfect face of hers. Her face was so close to his that it was like a blooming flower, causing Bai Wuqing to feel a little dizzy. "Of course I'm doing it for revenge." Revenge, Feng Feiling. Bai Wuqing quickly recalled that only Feng Feiling had a grudge against Tanguy. Tanguy laughed softly. "Yeah. Whatever she wants, I will destroy. As long as it is related to her, I will do the opposite of what she wants." She raised her head again and stared at the cold man in front of her. Her lips curved slightly. "Are you surprised? I'm like this. I'm full of schemes. I'm not a simple person. In order to achieve my goals, I didn't hesitate to meticulously plan so many things and use so many people. A person like me is indeed not Elder Bai's type. The one you should like is someone pure and untainted like a lotus." Chapter 541. "Elder Bai, do you have any other questions? If not, then there's no need for Elder Bai to stay in the Devil's Sect. To be honest, there's someone who's always watching me devise such a shocking plan that I feel uneasy about." Bai Wuqing was speechless and asked, "Aren't you afraid that I'll tell Feng Feiling about your plan?" "Elder Bai, you can try." Tanguy had a smile on her face as she stared at Bai Wuqing, causing him to feel a chill down his spine. He suddenly felt that he shouldn't have said those words. Although she was smiling, if he really did it, he would definitely be consigned to eternal damnation. "I don't want to tell her," Bai Wuqing hurriedly explained. His face was still as cold as ever, but there was a hint of urgency in his eyes. "Xiaoguo, I won't tell your secret to anyone else." What a mess. The system silently sighed in the corner. This Bai Wuqing's image had completely collapsed. It shook its head. This was also time traveling. Comparing its host to this mysterious person, it was clear that time traveling with memories and time traveling without memories was a huge difference. Without memories, who knew what would happen in the next life? Whether it was a human or a dog, good or bad, it was completely out of control. Tanguy glanced at Bai Wuqing and giggled. "Elder Bai, I've never seen you so anxious before. I can see fear and panic in your eyes." She stepped forward and stared into Bai Wuqing's eyes. "What are you afraid of? What are you panicking about?" "Naturally, I'm afraid that you'll be angry." Bai Wuqing helplessly thought. "I'm afraid that she'll be angry and turn to leave. I'm afraid that she'll treat me coldly and refuse to even look at me." He realized that he would never be able to fully understand her, so he didn't even dare to test her bottom line. He was afraid that he would make a mistake and cross the line, which would make her feel disgusted. Bai Wuqing sighed in his heart. Thinking of his previous decision, he said, "I plan to return to the Star Moon sect." "Elder Bai, you finally remember that you're a righteous person." Bai Wuqing's eyes flashed with a hint of helplessness and love. "I'll come find you again after a while." "You're still coming?" Tanguy was surprised. "If Wen Ziqiu finds out, I'm afraid Elder Bai won't want to work in Star Moon sect anymore." Bai Wuqing thought to himself. Even if he didn't want to do it, staying in the Devil's sect wouldn't be a problem. He was afraid that she wouldn't accept it and would chase him away. To him, the Star Moon sect was not a very important place. That place had already become Wenzichio's sole authority. When he returned, he only wanted to figure out one thing. He wanted to find out the truth of that day and prove her innocence. Based on his understanding of her during this period of time, it was impossible for her to steal the sex treasure. As for framing Feng Failing and wanting to destroy Feng Failing's spirit root, he believed that if she really made a move, even 100 Feng Failing wouldn't be able to outsmart her. Bai Wuqing bid farewell to Mo Yuntian, saying that he was only leaving temporarily and would return. Mo Yuntian was so shocked that he did not know what to say. Why did this righteous elder keep coming to their devil sect? He couldn't help but complain in the group, that Bai Wuqing, Zi Yun, and Qi Shao, you guys know them right? I do. What's the matter? Don't tell me they're still in the devil sect. Wrong. They've already left. They just said goodbye to me. But what did he say? Do you guys know? He actually said that he was only leaving temporarily and would return. Mo Yuntian didn't have the strength to complain. He's always pestering our school's belle. I didn't expect Bai Wuqing to be like this. Bai Wuqing, shameless. Chapter 542. The three of them brought out Bai Wuqing and talked about him before they were satisfied. The other people in the group silently paid attention. They were especially envious of the three of them meeting the school belle. Emmanuel, I hope that the school belle can come to our interstellar world once in my lifetime. I want to meet the school belle. General Billy, I might have a wish. Let the school belle come to our interstellar world once. Other than the food that we eat isn't that good, it's actually not bad. We have all kinds of high-tech that you can't find anywhere else. Margaret, I also want the school belle to come to our magical world. I will bring her to see the most beautiful magic in our magical world, as well as the mysterious curses. Harold, I hope the school belle can witness the moment when I condense my godhead. This will definitely be the best gift for me. Alan, Skinny Harold is daydreaming again. Should I throw a pillow at you? Harold, the most hateful person in the magical world is Alan. There's no other one. I hope the school belle doesn't care about Alan. He's tall, big, and ugly. He's like a ferocious beast. He almost secretes disgusting saliva. Alan, at least he's better than some skinny chicken who can lift a finger. He's as small as an ant and has a smelly mouth. I can crush him with a fist. Wander is silvering, although I also want to meet the school belle. When I think about the environment here, it's better if the school belle doesn't come. We want to go out. Misty Fairy, yeah, I want to meet the school belle. But the place we live in isn't suitable for the school belle to be a guest. I'll just think about it. Tangua had been paying attention to the situation in the group. Wanderer Silvering and Misty Fairy rarely appeared in the group. It seemed to have something to do with the environment they lived in. This time, she was curious and couldn't help but ask, what kind of environment are you living in? Is it very dangerous? It's not dangerous, but there's no way to get out. With Silvering and my strength, we have no problem protecting ourselves. Our lives are still good, and it's not a dangerous place. It's just that staying in this place for too long can't help but make people feel disheartened. We all guessed that if we want to leave this place, we'll probably have to transcend the tribulation and ascend. Fairy Pamyo said. The two of us have been here for a very long time. We've seen many newcomers come in. At first, they were full of excitement, but later, they became dispirited and despondent. In the end, if they didn't die of old age here, then they accepted their fate and stayed in one of the planes to survive. Upon hearing this, Tangua became even more curious. Then what kind of world do you live in? It's quite interesting. School beauty, I advise you not to be curious, Misty Fairy continued. Alright, since you're so curious, I'll tell you what kind of world this is. After all, there are many things that can't be predicted. I wonder if the campus belle has heard of the Rubik's Cube. I have. Fairy Piao Miao continued, this is a Rubik's Cube world. It's a space formed by 6 small planes. It rotates once a month. Unless they were willing to accept their fate and stay in a certain plane, they would not be teleported to the next plane. Otherwise, they would have to keep rotating and repeatedly survive in the 6 planes. Every rotation is very dangerous. Most ordinary people who fall into the Rubik's Cube world will choose to stay in a certain plane. Staying in a certain plane means that they will never be able to leave the Rubik's Cube world. And those who were unwilling to stay were those who wanted to leave. Chapter 543. Although I don't know the consequences of staying here, I feel that something is wrong. Silver Ring and I are both cultivators, so we have no problem protecting ourselves. There's no need to stay in one place. That's why we rarely show our faces in the group, because all kinds of strange and dangerous things can happen at any time. Rubik's Cube world Tanghua had transmigrated to many small worlds, but this was the first time she heard of a Rubik's Cube world that rotated once a month. She was indeed curious. Then how is your cultivation? Are you sure you can escape from the Rubik's Cube world after ascending? Wanderer Silver Ring said, I'm at the late stage of crossing tribulation, and my cultivation hasn't improved for a long time. Mistress Fairy is the same. We all suspect that the Rubik's Cube world is suppressing our cultivation and shielding us from the heavens. Maybe we can't pass the tribulation, and we're looking for the reason now. Because of this, although they were curious about Tanghua and wanted to see her, they didn't want her to transmigrate to the Rubik's Cube world. This place was too strange. Tanghua still wanted to ask something, but Wanderer Silver Ring and Fairy Piao Miao only left a sentence, 1 month is up. Then, the two disappeared together without saying another word. The group quieted down, and Tanghua also left the group. The Rubik's Cube world left some impression on her. Bai Wuqing hurriedly returned to the Star Moon sect and quietly investigated. He originally wanted to find out the truth and prove Tanghua's innocence. Maybe she didn't need it, and it was too late for him to do this, but he still wanted to do it. He didn't expect that he would find out many things that he didn't know before. This started after Feng Feiling entered the sect. Tanghua was his first disciple, and Feng Feiling entered the sect a year later than Tanghua. In the year before Feng Feiling entered the sect, Xiaoguo didn't have any thoughts about him. She wasn't a troublemaker, and as his disciple, she was well-behaved and never did anything that exceeded the relationship between master and disciple. Everyone's impression of her in the sect was that she was quiet, neither arrogant nor rash, had good talent, and was hardworking. She was a person worth learning from. After Feng Feiling entered the sect, Tanghua's reputation gradually worsened. If they spoke too much, they would deliberately approach him and curry favor with him. Thus, they would continue to work hard in their cultivation. However, everyone's impression of her was that she was scheming, calculative, and had a bad heart. She was not a righteous person and was rather arrogant, looking down on talented disciples. With this comparison, Bai Wuqing could see some suspicious points. After much investigation, he finally found a female disciple who was close to Tanghua and often came to see Tanghua. When the female disciple was suddenly summoned by Bai Wuqing, she was extremely frightened. Trembling, she walked over to Bai Wuqing, her head lowered, not daring to look at him. She cupped her hands and bowed, "Disciple greets Elder Bai. May I know why Elder Bai has summoned disciple here?" She was afraid that some of the things she had done before would be exposed. Now that Tanghua had disappeared, there was nothing to be afraid of. However, she was afraid that Bai Wuqing would suddenly realize that something was amiss. "You should know why this elder has summoned you here. To be able to accurately find you, how could the things you have done be hidden from this elder? That one sentence caused the female disciple's face to turn pale and she knelt on the ground. Elder Bai, please spare me. Disciple was told to do those things by someone. Disciple was only possessed for a moment. That person gave Disciple very good conditions, and Disciple's mind was bewitched. Bai Wuqing's expression sank. Tell me everything in detail. Don't leave out anything. Chapter 544. It was Feng Feiling who gave me some benefits and told me to tell Tangguo that Elder Bai likes cute and playful little girls. Feng Feiling also told me to give Tangguo an idea. He said that if she wanted to attract Elder Bai's attention, she would have to appear in front of Elder Bai frequently and appeal to Elder Bai's preferences. If this continued, even if Elder Bai's heart was as hard as steel, it would still melt. Feng Feiling also told me to spread rumors about Tangguo, and it wasn't anything good. Actually, other than paying attention to Elder Bai, Tangguo was basically cultivating and didn't have any contact with the other disciples of the sect. Bai Wuqing left the Star Moon sect, and the words of that female disciple echoed in his mind. So, all of this was because Xiaoguo liked him, so she changed her nature and appealed to his preferences. The strange thing about this matter was that he didn't like cute and playful little girls, and even more so, he didn't like people who deliberately tried to get close to him. Feng Feiling obviously knew that he didn't like Xiaoguo, so he specifically told people to induce Xiaoguo and make him hate Xiaoguo. He didn't quite understand what Feng Feiling's goal was. Was it just to make him hate Xiaoguo? What kind of hatred did she have with Xiaoguo? On that day, Xiaoguo had indeed gone in personally to steal the sect's most valuable treasure. He had watched the video and found something fishy. Xiaoguo's expression was a bit sluggish at that time, and her actions didn't seem like a normal person's, as if she was being controlled by someone. Although there was no evidence, it was enough to prove that something must have temporarily controlled Xiaoguo's mind. Thinking back to when her spirit root was crippled, she dragged her body full of injuries and left, saying that she wanted to take back his love. Bai Wuqing felt a bit disappointed and regretful. When he returned to the Devil's Sect, he anxiously strode forward, eager to see her. Seeing her squatting in the spiritual plant garden and quietly fiddling with the spiritual plants, he unconsciously lightened his footsteps. Elder Bai is back so soon. She didn't raise her head and buried the spiritual plants in the ground with her white fingers. Her tone was a bit sarcastic, as if she was mocking him, a righteous cultivator, for always running to the Devil's Sect. Elder Bai is distracted. Tangguo wiped her hands and raised her head, only to see Bai Wuqing looking at her with a complicated expression. She did not mind and walked to the side to sit down and drink tea. What are you thinking about? Bai Wuqing chose to sit on the other side. He pondered for a moment, preparing to say something. However, he realized that no matter what he said, it would be useless. Xiaoguo. Bai Wuqing felt extremely powerless. Feng Feiling had people inform Xiaoguo of his preferences, causing him to feel disgusted. As a matter of fact, Xiaoguo was not an annoying person to begin with. He had once felt a little impatient with her, but in reality, it was not that he did not want to admit that he had feelings for such a scheming person, so he chose to escape. Xiaoguo, I don't like people who are full of schemes. If this person is you, I can't help but like you. Bai Wuqing finally expressed his feelings. I don't know if we can start over again. Tangguo smiled. Elder Bai also likes to daydream. Do you want me to pass you a pillow? Elder Bai, look at the spiritual plants in the garden. Tangguo pointed at the lush green. All kinds of rare spiritual herbs can be found here. It can be said that in the entire cultivation world, the Devil's Sect spiritual plant garden must have the most variety. Bai Wuqing did not understand, not understanding what Tangguo was trying to say. Elderby, look around the spiritual plant garden. There is a type of regret spiritual medicine inside. Meeting Tangwa's half-smiling gaze, Bai Wuqing's lips twitched. His eyes dimmed and there was a hint of bitterness in his mouth. There isn't. Then that's it. Elderby, I have all kinds of medicine here, but I don't have any regret medicine.